Maggiano's probably not.
I'm your
Yeah.
right-hand guy. No, you're my right-hand guy tonight. It was the other way around. I'm Doc's right-hand guy.
Okay, could we come to order, please, everybody? And join me in a salute to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Matt, could we have a sunshine announcement, please?
Okay, this is a special meeting of the Planning Board. Today is April 30th, 2024. This meeting was advertised with a 5:30 PM start. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting has been given to the Jersey Journal, El Especialito, the city clerk, on April 25th, 2024. Distribution materials were provided to the commissioners and open to the public on the Jersey City Open Data Portal.
All right, thank you, Matt. Could we have a roll call, please? Mike?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Matt.
Commissioner Cruz?
Here.
Commissioner Lipsky?
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Desai?
Here.
Commissioner Green?
Present.
Chairman Langston?
Here.
And Acting Vice Chair Gangadin.
Here.
All right, thank you. Could we swear in the staff, please, Mike?
I see Sophia, Francisco, Tanya, Matt, you guys swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have correspondence, Matt?
None.
Okay. We have no adjournments tonight, so let's get right into old business. We'll call case P2024-0045 as a one-year extension for a preliminary and final major site plan with deviations for 414 to 432 Hoboken Avenue. Good evening, council.
Good evening, Gregory Asadorian from the Dakotas Law Firm on behalf of the applicant. I'm here really out of an abundance of caution, asking for a one-year extension. My client applied for demolition permits back in March 2023. He received the final demolition permit in December 2023. Demolition has begun and it's almost complete. So once demo is complete, he could go on to the next step of the project. So I'm really here just out of an abundance of caution in the event it is determined that a demolition alone does not suffice or satisfy the time period, and if something more is needed, just to obtain and secure that approval.
Okay, understood, council. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay, is anybody here from the public that wants to comment on this application for a one-year extension? Anybody from public?
Chair, see no one for public. I would like to close the public portion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded for public to be closed. It is closed. Sophia, do you have anything you want to add?
Planning staff would ask that the applicant's attorney agree to the existing conditions placed into effect under the old approval.
Yes, absolutely.
Planning staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case P2024-0045 as presented, together with all conditions under the old case number.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded for approval.
Active Vice Chair Gangadin,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Dr. Desai,
Aye.
Lipsky,
Aye.
and Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. All right, let's move on to item B, is case P2024-0078 is a one-year extension of an interim use for 242 Hudson Street and 3 Second Street. Good evening, council.
Good evening. For the record, Charles Harrington of Connell Foley on behalf of the applicant. What we're asking for tonight is for an extension of the beer garden that is located next to Plaza 9. Some of the board members may recall that this was approved as part of the Plaza 8 approval a few years ago. So it's actually been approved as a permanent use. Before that, it was approved as an interim use, which was continued. The owner has building permits in hand to start Plaza 8, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to start within the next few months because they're trying to secure the financing. So we're asking that this be extended through October 31st, 2024, so that they can have this use for the, general community. It's right there in the water. It's a nice use. In the event construction starts before then they would shut down the use.
Okay, thank you, council. Any questions? Anybody?
No.
Okay, is there anybody here from the public that wants to comment on this one-year extension? Anybody from the public?
Seeing no one from the public wishing to speak, I move to close.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Public is closed. Matt, do you have anything you want to add?
Staff recommends that all conditions on the record stay in effect, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. And council, you're okay with that?
That's acceptable.
Great, thank you.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case P 2024-008 together with all conditions.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded for approval.
On a motion approved with conditions, Commissioner Cruz? Aye. Commissioner Lipsky?
Wishing you a great Halloween, October 31st. I vote aye.
Commissioner Dr. Desai?
Aye.
Commissioner Green?
Aye.
Acting Vice Chair Gangadin?
Aye.
And Chairman Langston?
Aye,
Motion carries all in favor, and
Okay.
a motion to approve.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, council. Let's move on to new business. Item 9 is case P 2023-0086, is a conditional use with preliminary and final major site plan for 516 Tunnelly Avenue. Good evening, council.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Tom Lean of Connell Foley. The application is a notice case.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, I am in receipt of the affidavit of publication proof of mailing with respect to the application located at 516 Tunnelly Avenue here in the city. It does appear to be in order. We're going to mark it as A1 for purposes of the record.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Council. The application before you tonight is a conditional use for a Class 5 cannabis retail facility. It also requires preliminary and final site plan approval because we are building several improvements as well as parking on the site. The existing site is currently a tow lot. There is a one-story commercial building on it, which will be reutilized for the commercial use. Right now, it's packed with a lot of junk and a lot of cars. We're removing that, and we're going to place parking on site for the retail use. It is located on Tunnelly Avenue. We weren't certain if the jug handle that is next door was part of the county road. In speaking with Jersey City Engineering, they do not believe it is a county road. However, should we receive approval tonight, we will ask for a jurisdictional determination from the county just to confirm that we don't need their approval for the use. There is one item I wanted to bring up before I bring up my witnesses. There was a planning memo generated by Francisco Espinoza dated 4/10/24. Within it, Mr. Espinoza highlights that there is an approval for another cannabis facility within 600 feet here. However, they have not pulled their permits to begin construction on that. As has been the board's past practice and planning's policy, we are not officially putting the pin on the map to count that for the 600 feet. Accordingly, this can go forward before the board tonight, and it will not require any deviations from the stated conditions for the use. I do have 3 witnesses this evening. I think the most pertinent is Mark Chisvet, my engineer, to go over the site improvements. I also have my architect, Carlos Tovar, who will just briefly go through the floor plan. Obviously, this has been in front of the Cannabis Review Board previously and received approval. They went through the security plan, odor mitigation, community givebacks, the other requirements that are not only provided to that board, but are required as part of the conditional use requirements for this board. I also have a traffic expert should you have any questions related to site access. So with that, I'm going to bring up Mr. Chisvet.
Thank you, council.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chisvet.
Where's my cord?
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
For the record, can you state your name, please?
Mark, M-A-R-K, Chisvet, C-H-I-S-V-E-T-T-E.
Good evening, Mr. Chisvet.
My
You're
license is
qualified.
good for another 2 years.
Okay, thank you. And it's current tonight, so you are qualified.
I don't know, I just want to make sure you can see my screen now. You should be looking at a zoning table. Yep, okay. So this site is, I'm just going to pan over a little bit to the area map. This site is on the northbound side of Tunnelly Avenue. It is just beyond or just north of the jug handle for New County Road and actually has access from the jug handle and the main highway existing today. There are three curb cuts today. I'll get into that when we get into the site layout. I just want to go through the zoning table real quick. There are some variances. Some of them exist already. This is an existing building. We're not expanding the building in any way, but there are some yard deviations already. There's also a variance for parking within the front yard, but if you look, when you get into the site layout, you'll realize that pretty much the entire site is the front yard because of the way it's aligned with the jug handle. And there is a variance for lot coverage. We're just barely over it. We're 0.3% over the 90% allowable, but that's a reduction from the 100% that exists today. So with that being said, I will move to the site plan.
Apologies, Mr. Chabot. I just want to make clear for the record, you said some of them are pre-existing. They're actually all pre-existing. We're not asking for any new variances tonight, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So what I'm showing you now is that I'm zooming into the site plan. These are all plans that have already previously been submitted. The way you're looking at this plan, northbound is to the left. In the lower right, or the right side of the screen, is part of the jug handle, which would be the turn from northbound Tunnelly Ave into New County Road. The main highway is at the bottom of the page. Existing building is shaded in gray. We are proposing 12 parking spaces, and we are proposing a clockwise circulation of traffic through the site. It would be one way. There are 3 curb cuts along the frontage at this time. The one in the center of the site, if you will, which is along the jug handle, we are not proposing to use at all. In fact, we are planting trees and grass strip and curb in front of that. But we are going to utilize part of the existing curb cut that is on the main highway, which is to the left of the bottom of the screen, which is the entry point. And then there is another curb cut which we are proposing to use, which is towards the right of the site where it gets very narrow. And we are only using a part of that curb cut as well. So both of those 2 curb cuts, even though we're using existing curb cuts, we are reducing those to less than half the length that's there now. As you circulate into the site, there are 3 parking spaces to the left as you enter in. A vehicle would then turn right across the front of the building. There are 3 more spaces along the frontage. And then as you pass those, there will be 2 more parking spaces that butt up against the building. And then continuing on beyond the building, along the rear property line, there are 3 more, including 1 ADA accessible space. And at the far east or southerly, or to the right, it's far southerly part of the property is the 12th parking space. And that's where the exit driveway is. So what we're proposing is that vehicles would enter in from the main highway, but they would exit out into the jug handle turn. And the reason we did that is for a couple of reasons. It enables, it's a convenience for the exiting traffic. They can then make a U-turn and go southbound or on Route 1 or go northbound from that point, rather than to have make U-turns further up the road. And also, we were concerned that if it was in the reverse direction, vehicles, motorists who were not familiar with entering the site might not realize you'd have to come in from a jug handle. We didn't think that was the best way to circulate through the site, coming in from a jug handle and exiting it out onto the main highway. We thought it would be easier and safer to enter in from the main highway and exit out onto the jug handle, which is a much lower speed, and there is a signal there, so traffic would stop occasionally to give gaps for them to exit the site. We are also proposing to replace the sidewalk that's along the state frontage, the state highway frontage, which includes the jug handle. That's all under DOT jurisdiction. We are proposing new street trees along the entire frontage. A total of 9 trees are proposed. And we are proposing a grass buffer, a 5-foot grass strip between the on-site curb and the back of the DOT highway. We are removing the fence that is currently on site now. That fence is actually well into DOT right-of-way and would not be able to remain anyway. But we are removing that fence, which I think it's chain link anyway, which would be against your ordinance. There will be, as I said before, towards the rear of the property where you see those 3 parking spaces, one of them is ADA space, and there is an entry door at that location. There's also the double entry door, which would be the main entrance, which is the double door at the lower right corner of the building, and so the ADA space is very close to that door. All of the spaces are standard size, 9 by 18, aisles 22 feet minimum. There are no compact spaces on this site. We are also proposing some additional landscaping. Like I said, we are proposing a 5-foot strip. Part of that is actually within a right-of-way, and part of that is on this property, but there will be a 5-foot landscape strip with trees along the jug handle. There will be a landscaped area at the extreme southerly portion of the property, and there will be a landscaped rain garden that will also attenuate roof runoff from the site. We're proposing to redirect the roof runoff now, which just spills onto the parking lot, to go pass through that rain garden. And we are proposing bicycle spaces. There will be two bicycle racks for bike parking spaces, which would be located against the rear of the property, just to the right. As you can see, space number 11. It's a little hard to see because there's a light pole in that area, but there are 2 bike racks in that hatched out zone for the 4 bike spaces. We are proposing, I'm going to move on to the lighting. We are proposing a combination of a light pole, a couple of light poles in the parking lot, and some fixtures on the building for wall mounted in combination, that this would provide the lighting required on the site. And moving on further to the grading utility plan, as you can see in the lower left, there is the rain garden that's proposed. Some of the parking runoff will be going through there, as well as the roof runoff that we're collecting, which currently just goes to grade and eventually sheets into the highway. There is existing sanitary sewer connection already we propose to reuse. There is a water service connection that we also propose to reuse. I will point out that we did receive a letter from the MUA, and they questioned whether that sanitary sewer is connected to a sewer main or a storm main. We are going to, there are notes on the plan to video inspect that sewer line. We would have to do that anyway to reuse it, and we will confirm whether it does in fact connect to a legal combined sewer, and as a matter of a condition of approval. If we find that it doesn't, we will construct a new sewer lateral from this site, which would actually wind up passing through the jug handle. There is, you can't see it on this sheet, but just to the south or to the right of this site, there is a combined sewer that runs across Route 1 and into County Road, but it is an MUA sewer, and that's where they would prefer us to connect. It's possible that's where it goes now, but we're not sure until we do the inspection. And that's it. Like I said, it's an existing building. It's in a very odd-shaped piece of property. We tried to make all the parking compliant. We didn't include any waivers for the aisle or for the parking space sizes. We do have one space more than what is required by ordinance on this site. Like I said, it's one-way circulation through, and unless you have questions, that's the end of my testimony.
Mr. Shizvet, you did receive comments from Jersey City Engineering on April 15th and comments from traffic on April 15th.
Yes.
And we can either address or comply with all the comments therein.
Yes.
I have nothing further for Mr. Shizvet.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chisvet. I have no questions. Anybody else?
I
Go ahead,
have a
Doctor.
question. You know the place where you are coming out, the back one, and the traffic, there is so much traffic on that jug handle. So what precautions you have done for that?
Well, we felt it was safer to exit onto, as you know, Tunnel Avenue has a lot of traffic. There's no shoulders. It's 1 foot from the painted line to the curb. They move quickly. There's a lot of trucking. So we felt it was safer to come out into the jug handle for a couple of reasons. Like I said, it does allow a vehicle who's exiting to decide whether he wants to continue north or turn around and go the other direction. But also because there is a lot of traffic on the jug handle, but it's slow moving because it's coming around the curve and there's a light. So they would, traffic does stop there for the light, and that would give opportunities for the exiting traffic to penetrate into the jug handle traffic, which I believe is a lot easier and safer than trying to penetrate into the main highway traffic, which is a lot heavier and a lot higher speed.
Are you going to have stop sign there?
Actually, we don't show stop sign there, but we can certainly add one. We are showing do not enter signs there, so traffic does not enter in that direction. And we have several wrong way and one way signs within the site, so that when someone backs out of their parking space, it reinforces the direction that they're going to go. We've also, as you can see, the 3 spaces that are against the highway, which are numbered 4 through 6, are angled slightly, and we did that to reinforce, because there's a driveway right there, and it's kind of tempting to back out of them and go out the entrance, and to kind of reinforce the one-way nature of the circulation, we angled them a little bit so that those cars backing out would tend to want to go towards the exit instead of the entrance.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Is that the old or the current Rendy's Body
Yes.
Shop? Okay.
Yes.
And also the auto repair adjacent to it? So there's an
Yes.
Rendy?
Yeah, it's right now it seems to me that there's more than one operation going on at that property, and there's cars parked helter-skelter throughout the site. They utilize all of the 3 curb cuts at this point in time, and there's really no direction or control of any of that. They just squeeze in there wherever they can.
Yeah, but that's like you said, or is even in the report, DOT and county road. So, but I guess my question is remediation. I mean, is there any call for that? I mean, given it's
Remediation regarding traffic impact, you mean?
No. In terms of the use,
Oh.
converting it from a, I don't know. I mean,
Oh, you mean like a hazardous material remediation? I'm not aware of anything like that.
Council, has there been any study on the property? I mean, I would think if it changed hands, that would have to be part of that study, right?
I can briefly check with my client. I'm not sure if they're leasing the space or purchasing it. Obviously, if there was purchase, they would have done environmental due diligence during it.
Sure.
If it's just a lease and it's for standard retail, I mean, generally the pavement is the cap on anything that's there. But let me just quickly check with my client.
Okay, thank you.
They are just leasing the
Okay.
property. So it is a retail use to a retail use. Again, if they were purchasing it, I think there probably would be a little bit more due diligence on it. But given the nature of it, I don't think there was any need to go any further into it. It's one permitted use to another. So,
Okay,
yeah.
understood. Thank you, counsel. Anybody else, any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chizvet.
My next witness is Carlos Tovar, who is our architect.
I just gotta swear you.
Yes, correct.
You swear your testimony you give tonight is gonna be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name, please?
Carlos Tovar, Tovar T-O, Vincent Victor A-R.
Mr. Tovar, good evening. I don't believe we've qualified you in the past, have we?
No,
Okay, if you could just go through your educational background and your licensing for us.
right. I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia. I graduated from there. I'm currently a registered architect in New Jersey, and my license is current.
Okay, thank you. You're qualified.
Thank you. All right, so here is an image of what proposing of the building. The building again is we are maintaining the mercantile use as we spoke. The property is 4,000 square feet. A lot of the black colors that you see is masonry walls, and the construction is actually a wood construction. In this image, this is the floor plan. So what we're looking is coming from the south of the building or the top of the screen. We have a checkpoint area. From the checkpoint area, and they will look at your ID, the security person. They have a backup room, a security office right on the back when they will have all the cameras. After that, you will be able to go through the second entrance. The way how the checkpoint works is until one door is closed, you can open the second door for security measures. And when you come to the sales area, the sales area is about 850 square feet. It's all open. And then there is a front counter with five computers. The whole place is even in the shelving, and I will show you on the renders, it will be all ADA accessible. So we'll have low shelf, 48 inches, so anybody can use the shelving. And we do have on the back of the house, we have a janitor closet, and then we do have an office and a break room on the back. 65-70% of the building is occupied by the retail space, but then on the back we have like about 1,600 square feet of storage. And the hoop is, in a few years, they have room to grow. But right now, the park on the back is going to be utilized for storage. We do have a vault, a secure vault, so they will be able from the front counter to the vault to pass the merchandise through a safe windows. We do have a delivery area right above of the vault. The building have means of egress. Have one to the south, to the north of the page. It have other through the delivery area, and then also have other through the storage room. Here on the back is a little courtyard that we're gonna be using for the mechanical equipment. The mechanical equipment is going to be small equipment, so it's not going to make a lot of noise. Half of the equipment is going to be outside. The other equipment is going to be inside. And also, as we testified before, we do have a outdoor control system. They're going to work with the proposed HVAC system. And the vault is going to be secure. In this graphic, we show how the second layer of security will have, which is the metal match. But again, the good building is, it have a good walls. It's all masonry, CNU walls. And this image is actually show the flow, how people will come. They will come through you see the arrows, people will come through the checkpoint and then will just go around, and then the toilets are right adjacent to the checkpoint area. I was talking to my client, and they own a similar business, and they are telling me that everybody that come in is just going to be there for 10 minutes. And I guess sometimes they will pre-order, few people that will pre-order, and then will take less than 10 minutes. So we don't really see a really crowded space. The images, again, is very simple. We're taking advantage of what is there. The building is concrete, so we want to polish the concrete. And again, the colors and the materials are timeless. We have a loud G-board, a little bit of wood paneling. As you can see, the front counter have a drop area for ADA accessibility, so somebody on the wheelchair can use the counter. The shelvings are low too, and we do have 2 displays on monitors, so they can get orders, from the space. Here is, I know everybody talk about how ugly is the building and how the building do different things, but actually we're taking that advantage. So because after we clean out the building, what we're proposing is paint the building, create more like timeless colors, and then create like a canopy on the south, because looking the building there is actually right on the south, so creating that green color canopy that we have almost 9 feet will create a lot of shades, and even the different slope of the roof will help with that. So as you can see from the render, it's going to be a pretty nice building after everything is done and after everything you get cleaned up. The materials are everything is local. We are using paint. The masonry is already there. The canopy is going to be done by a manufacturer in Pennsylvania. Same thing with the metal panel that we have that look like wood. It's going to be done in Pennsylvania. For the signage, we had dimension of the signage. The signage right now is taking only 5% of the wall, so they are not really big on comparison with the rest of the wall. And again, here are some of the images. We look at what it looked, during the day, what it looked like in the evening. We're creating some ambient lighting for safety, of course, and to illuminate the building. And here in this canopy, with the green color canopy, you can actually see how we can create the shade, getting everything from the sun. And with this, I finish my testimony.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tovar, just a couple questions, if you
Yes,
could leave
sure.
that plugged in. I just want to talk about, first off, customer circulation. Customers are exiting the same way they come in, correct?
That's correct, single door, correct. But in case of emergency, you have the second entrance through the delivery area.
Sure.
It's a corridor line.
So then how are the goods delivered? The customers don't go into the delivery area, do they?
They don't.
Okay, so who goes in there?
It's just the bartenders.
Okay.
And also when they schedule the deliveries.
Okay.
The deliveries will be scheduled.
Understood. So that's a secure door going from the sales floor into the delivery area?
That will be correct. But we'll have a release in case of emergency too.
Okay, and where is that release? That's in the security office, I assume?
That will be in the security office.
Okay, and is that triggered by fire alarms or anything like that? How is that triggered?
It will connect it to the fire alarm system.
Okay, is this a sprinklered building or a non-sprinklered?
It's not a sprinkle building.
Okay, understood. So it's gonna be triggered by smoke alarms?
No smoke alarm, we will have other type of alarm. So it will be when a smoke alarm can trigger when yes.
Okay, what other kind of alarms are there? Did I misunderstand you that the smoke is not gonna trigger the door to unlock, correct?
Correct. So it will be the light, right? If the light go away, and then also if the smoke happen, the alarm will go off.
Okay.
We have to have that door.
Okay, so then someone in the security office hits that trigger to unlock the door, or it's automatic?
It has to be automatically.
That's why I'm asking.
It has to be automatic.
Okay. All right. That's it for me. Anybody else Any other questions?
Yeah. Can you tell me something about the security? What kind of security you have?
We will have a security company. We have another client. I can speak to that. Yeah.
We do have the applicant here, and they've obviously presented that to the Cannabis Board, so if you'd like them to come up and just present the same information they presented to them, we'd be more than happy to have them up.
No, that's fine.
I do have understanding about security, how we work, and so if you want, I can talk about it, but.
So we don't, and Doctor, don't let me put words in your mouth. We don't generally want to know camera locations. I don't think that's something that should be public. It's redacted a lot of times, but there are cameras in the
There will be
on
cameras.
the sales floor.
There will be cameras and also what I mentioned before, controls between doors. So we create a Sallyport environment. When one is closed, the other open.
Okay, and are there cameras outside the building as well covering the doors?
There will be cameras, 360 cameras outside the building as well.
Okay, and lighting is
Outside.
constant outside or is,
Outside.
The lighting is constant outside. My civil engineer have the plan, and we saw there, but yeah, it's gonna be constant. I have a up and down oval, half round lighting.
okay, so that should be sufficient to cover, to light the entrances and exits for the cameras.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And,
Okay.
and actually on the lighting level on his drawings, you see like how everything overlaps.
Sure.
So that's correct.
Okay. Anything else, Doctor? All right. Anybody else? Any questions?
No.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I do have a traffic engineer, if there are any questions regarding circulation in and out of the site. Other than that, I have no further witnesses.
I'm satisfied with circulation. I think it's apparent. You know, it's pretty clear. Anybody want to hear traffic testimony?
No.
Okay.
I just want to thank the board for getting us back in front of us so quickly and thank planning for facilitating that. Their state license was about to expire, so it was important we got heard tonight. and We really
Okay.
appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries, Council. Thank you. Okay, is anybody here from the public that wants to comment on this application? Anybody from the public?
Chair, seeing no one from the public, I would like to close the public.
There
portion.
is.
Charlene does.
We have public coming up.
Somebody coming.
Swear you swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
For the record, can you state and spell your name, give us your home address, please?
Charlene Burke, CHARLENE BURKE, 56 Duncan Avenue, Jersey City.
Ms. Burke, good evening. Always a pleasure. We have 3 minutes for you.
Yes, thank you. Firstly, I have nothing against this type of business whatsoever, but I do have a problem on its location on that particular site, and it is because of the circulation of the traffic. It was raised about the traffic on that jug handle, and it's constant, the traffic on that jug handle. And it's not just cars, but it's a lot of tractor trailers, because that's one of the major entry points to the industrial area, be it in Secaucus or to the UPS, the Postal Service facility that's there on County Avenue, or County Road, I should say. So there's a lot of traffic. And the way they have the cars going in from Tunnelly Avenue, which is just very dangerous in that given area, I drive it constantly during the week. So I know it all times of the day and evening. And I just think it's a bad location for this kind of in and out. One of the things that I really think is going to end up resulting is parking on the jug handle itself. People sit in their cars, somebody else goes in, and they're literally parked in the driving lane. And I have a concern about that because even by Hudson Mall, if you look, there was a jug handle that was 2 lanes that went into the mall. Now parking is on either side, and there's 1 lane now. And it's just, the jug handle can be a big problem. And I think you need a lot of signage along the jug handle that says do not park. You need it saying that the entry is on around the corner that you enter, they need to do a lot of signage, because otherwise there will be people who will say, I'm not going in there and negotiating this. I'll just park right here. And that's it. So I don't have a problem with the business. I have a problem with the site and where it is. So I think you should really think about, or they need to reconsider how to do that circulation. Because there's not going to be any enforcement. We all know Jersey City. It's not an enforcement city. So who do you call? Who do you call when there's a lot of cars parked there? The county? The state? The city? Who's going to come? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Burke. We appreciate it. Anybody else from public?
Come on, sir.
Sure, come on up.
Never done this before, I apologize.
That's okay. We'll walk you right through it.
This one right here, I don't think that one works.
Okay.
Just gonna swear you in. Do you swear any testimony you give tonight is gonna be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And for the record, can you spell your name and give us your home address, please?
Patrick Moore, Patrick Moore, Moore, 23 Waverly Street. And my
Mr.
one
Moore,
cons-
good evening. We have
Yeah.
3 minutes for you, sir.
Okay, yeah. My one concern is, picking up what you said, on Tunley Avenue, and I know you went over one parking spot, but it's got to be a swooping, you know, and there's got to be better signage. If people are driving along, they say, oh, there's the pot shop, instead of stopping on Tunley Avenue. They added, if you see there's an entrance and there's 3 parking right there, maybe one should disappear and it should be more of a swoop in, so we don't have so much possibility of somebody stopping, going like, oop, where am I? Where am I? Just a question. My other concern is about security. I know they're putting a vault on, keeping the existing walls and putting a vault. I'd go through the ceiling, you know, if I want to pot or I want to rob the place, but that's my concern. My other concern was the lighting, but it seems like they're putting the lighting down, because you look at the pictures, because among, you know, everybody lives up there. If it's, what are your hours of working? If it's going to be late night and it's going to be a lot of lights, neighbors aren't going to be happy. But they seem to be pointing the lights down. I just wanted to mention those few things. I'm with the Journal Square Community Association. I'm on construction and planning. We look at things all the time. Good to see you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Take care. Anybody else from public? If you'd like to comment, please come on up.
Seeing no one else from the public, Mr. Chair, I move to close.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Public is closed. Council, do you want a closing statement?
Sure, I just want to respond to some of the comments. First off, hours, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. As we said, for the lighting, it is all downlit, so it won't be interfering with any of the residential uses behind it. As to the circulation, we've submitted a full traffic report. We provided the testimony this evening. We think providing that additional space is going to, it's better for people to go in and park if there's going to be available parking. We explain the reasons why we think it's safer to exit onto the jug handle there instead of having people speed out onto Tunnelly Avenue. There is a break in traffic that allows them to enter into that space. Frankly, we think it's better than what the conditions are currently right now, which is 3 curb cuts, cars being towed in and out of there on busy roads with a lot of trucks. There are tons of retail uses all along Tunnelly Avenue, and I don't think that this is any different than those that currently exist and will operate in a way that is similar to those that are there. So that's all.
Thank you, Council. Doctor, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the lady who said about lot of signs, because the first exit, there should be a sign there, no
Doctor, is
entry.
your microphone on? You could just speak.
The first exit, there should be a sign that no entry, and the second one, there should be, this is the exit entry. There should be lot of, as she said, because that's a jug handle.
No, I understood. And right now we do propose a no entry on the exit onto, and I'm not sure.
So, Council, we're going to put an entry on the entry.
That's what I'm confirming. I know the no entry for
No
the
entry
exit.
on the exit.
Just want to make sure there's an entry.
At present time, we're proposing 2 do not enters at the exit, one on each side. We don't have an enter sign, but we can certainly add one. We do have wrong way inside the site, so that someone pulling out of a parking space doesn't head towards the exit as opposed, head toward the entrance as opposed to the exit. But if you feel that it would be a benefit to add a small sign at the entrance, just basically say an entrance or an arrow pointing in or something like that, we can certainly add that to the site plan.
Okay.
Well, one of the things about Rendy's is they had that big old sign on top that you couldn't miss
Just
it.
a signal.
Yeah.
There is a sign showing inside.
We're going to put an entrance sign at the entrance driveway.
Yeah, let's put an entrance sign at the driveway.
Obviously, there's signage for the business on the building, so that will alert people to what the use is at the actual facility. On the back of those do not enter signs. So the do not enter signs obviously face the jug handle. They're the typical do not enter signs, correct?
Yes.
So on each side of those, let's put stop signs on the back side so that people exiting the site know they have to stop at that driveway. There's currently 3 driveways, correct?
Currently, there are 3, yes.
And obviously, an applicant could come before this body and propose to use all 3 of those to get onto and off of the site. So the applicant has eliminated one and has chosen 2 that they feel, supported by their traffic expert, is the best maneuverability of the site. But they could have come and said, we have these 3 curb cuts, we're allowed to use these 3 curb cuts, and this is what we're doing. So the board just has to bear that in mind, as does the public.
Council,
So I didn't finish.
okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Steve.
So, as I was saying, this is Rendy's, which I've gone to for many years, born and raised in Jersey City, and had many a car repaired there or body work done. But on top, I mean, it's recognizable from afar. So maybe there should be a tag, might be a tagline that says entrance wherever, you know. So like you have green, whatever it is, green top it is, and then underneath entrance. You know, so it could be seen from going north
That would be a proposal above the entrance? to-
on the building.
Oh, on the building right now, we have signage that indicates what the business name is.
No, I know that, but I'm saying is if you have a tagline that says entry wherever. Because
My
you'd
su-
see
my
that from afar.
Suggestion, and this is for the board to decide on, can, as a condition of approval, can we state that we will work with traffic and planning staff to approve identification signage that complies with the ordinance to identify the entrance location?
So, council, that was my comment that I was going to make next. I don't know where you're at with percentage of retail signage.
We comply. There is permitted for each facade of the building, and it's a certain size per the facade. The 2 signs that we have currently comply. I think for safety and traffic, though, that's not really what the ordinance is talking about as far as the actual signage for the business. I think we can work with planning and traffic to devise a signage package that both complies with the ordinance, both for a identification of a retail location and actually correctly identifies the location of the entrance.
So what I would propose was, I'm not opposed to branding on that entrance sign.
Okay.
I think it should be very identifiable what that driveway is for, what you're pulling in there for. And, you know, I think having, and Francisco, you know, correct me if I'm out of line here, if I'm out of bounds of the law. I just think having, you know, obvious branding on an entrance sign on a highway is, you know, really the right way to go about this.
We can definitely work something out.
Okay. That's a condition that we can agree to.
Okay, so we'll condition it that you'll present a signage package to planning that will be within the bounds of the ordinance. If it is outside the bounds of that ordinance, obviously
back to
you
this
would
board.
need signage approvals from us again.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So I
Everybody
think
okay
it's
with
a
that?
win-win in the sense that your client gets their customers and clientele to go directly to the spot, and for the community, it's less of a cluster.
Absolutely.
Okay, everybody okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you,
thank you.
council. I'll entertain a motion then. I'm sorry, I didn't hear from Francisco. I apologize. I'm trying to get ahead of
So I will
myself.
be brief. As was said earlier, so the applicant has received Cannabis Control Board approvals on March 27th. This location is located in the highway commercial. There are no schools within 200 feet of this location. However, it was mentioned that There is another Class 5 retailer that was approved within 600 feet, but they have not pulled permits for the construction of the retail portion. I do have a timeline of both applications if the board wants me to go through both of the applications, or is everyone okay?
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no permits pulled.
No permits were pulled for the
Yes,
cannabis
so there's no
location.
pen as far as this board's concerned.
All right, so regarding distance, the applicant does not have a D3 variance because no permits have been pulled for the cannabis application. With that said, staff does recommend approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you, Francisco.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case P 2023-0086 as presented to the board this evening.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval.
Okay, on a motion to approve, Commissioner Green.
Just one quick question, Council. So on this notion about pulling permits, I remember last year that there was a very elongated meeting about 2 cannabis shops on Kennedy Boulevard. And so let's just say if Mr. Lean's client goes and pulls permits tomorrow, what does it do to the other proponent?
So the other proponent has all of its approvals in place. As I understand it, they have not submitted for or received building permits. So it's been the interpretation of the city that until you have submitted and pulled building permits, there is no pin in the map. That doesn't upend the approvals granted. So that individual could submit for their building permits because they have their approvals in place. But as far as jurisdiction and whether or not they violate the conditional use of being within 600 feet of another establishment, the interpretation of the city is until those permits are issued, that establishment does not exist on the map, and therefore you can't violate the 600 feet because the establishment doesn't exist yet. So that's the interpretation of the ordinance and why the jurisdiction before this board on this application as it's presented to it.
Great explanation. The only thing is simply is whoever pulls the permits first pins it, and that's it. Game, set, match.
In terms of putting everybody on notice that from there forward, everybody's got to respect that location and has to be outside of 600 feet. However, if they're already in the pipeline, right? So if the application was filed today, but permits were pulled last week, that would be a problem. If the permits were pulled today, this application would go forward tonight because the application was already pending since it was filed by the applicant. I believe it was back in October, this particular application.
And we did have a similar situation on
Good.
Central Ave and Griffith over there. There was the one shop on Griffith right at the entrance to that public parking lot behind the Burger King. Same situation there. It's come up often, and it's the permits get pulled. That's when the pin goes in. Okay, we're in a motion right now.
Okay. Commissioner Green.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Cruz.
I abstain.
Abstain. Commissioner Dr. Desai.
Aye.
Commissioner Lipsky.
Aye.
Acting Vice Chair Ganganon.
Aye. Good luck.
And Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Motion carries 4 in favor. 5 in favor. And 1 abstention.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Mike, the time is 6:45. Do you want to get a break in before this next application? That's the rest of our night. Yeah, I'd rather not break it up. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, everybody. It's 6:44. We'll be back.
For you, I have it at home. My husband has so many. What size? It's large. Okay.
Tanya, Here? Yeah? Did she leave? Yes. Okay, let's call item 10 on the agenda. It's case P22-189, is a preliminary and final major site plan for 216 Palisade Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Harrington of Connell Foley on behalf of the applicant. This is a notice case, so I'd ask that those be reviewed and marked into the record.
Thank you, Council. Chairman, I've been provided the notice prior to the start of the meeting this evening for the application at 216 Palisade Avenue here in the city. I've had the opportunity to review it. It does appear to be in order, so we're going to go ahead and mark it as A1 for purposes of the record.
Thank you, Counsel.
Okay, thank you. So what we have before you tonight, we believe, is a pretty exciting project. It is a senior housing project. The property that is at issue is located within the medical zone on Palisade Avenue. It's also located within the Palisades Preservation Overlay District, which the board is now very familiar with. The project before you is being proposed at 10 stories, which is permitted. There's 10 stories and 100 feet is the permitted height within the medical zone. We are proposing 51 units of senior housing, which, as noted, is a permitted use. We believe this is a much-needed use in Jersey City. You hear about a lot of housing being provided, but you're not seeing any new senior housing projects. So we believe that it really will satisfy a need throughout the city. As we hear, I know we all hear stories about people being forced out of the city, whether they don't want to, take care of that home anymore, but they want to stay within the city. This is a vehicle that we think will provide them an opportunity to stay here, or new residents as well. They are being proposed as market rate units. That being said, we believe that they will probably be less rent because you have a lesser, demand pool, if you will, because it'll be, the local ordinance says 62 and older. The state says 55 and older, so it's a little conflict there. But, bottom line is we are going to provide whatever is legally permitted. I believe that the municipalities have a right to make it more restrictive at 62 and older, so that's something we would probably expect be the outcome here. But that is something that we are ready to do regardless, whether it's 55 or 62. That's the project. I'd also note that in the event that this is approved tonight, my client's plan is to seek out affordable housing trust funds, because if in the event that those are available, we will be looking into that as the possibility of providing for affordable units within the project. We haven't done that to date, only because we didn't want to put the cart before the horse. But that is something that we are definitely going to seek. We did have some conversations with them in the past, but we needed a project. So hopefully, we have that project after tonight. We are seeking one variance. The variance is for the minimum buffer from adjacent residential uses and zones. The requirement in the medical zone is 10 feet. We are proposing 3 foot 9 inches on the southern side of the building. I just note for the record, there was a lot of discussion about this with the planning department and the zoning department when we were proposing this project, whether or not it was applicable, because you have a commercial building directly to the north, which is owned by CarePoint. CarePoint also owns all the property behind this. There's a large parking lot field between our property line and the Palisade Cliff face. And then directly to the south is a mixed-use building that has a pharmacy on the ground floor and a residential use up top. So that's technically a commercial building, but at the end of the day, planning and zoning said that is a residential use as part of that, so the standard applies. We had some discussions about that and the back and forth, what might be an appropriate setback, and that's where we ended up with the 3 foot 9 that we're proposing tonight as part of this project. As I noted earlier, it's also in the Palisade Protection or Palisade Preservation Overlay District, the PPOD. I note that none of the performance standards apply. The performance standards are the setbacks. This property is well over 100 feet from the cliff face, and you'll see during the presentation how it's basically separated from the cliff face and the property line by this parking field. So we don't have any of those setback issues that we had with the 152 Ogden Avenue project. That being said, we did provide the analysis and reports that were required pursuant to the procedural regulations. So we have a geotech report that we've submitted. We have the survey was provided at the 2-foot contours. It shows that this is a very gentle slope. I think it might be between 3 and 4% slope, whereas the trigger for any of those setback requirements is 30% slope. So we don't have any concerns there. We can talk to the bedrock at the site and the depth of the bedrock. So we have the same expert as we did during the 152 Ogden presentation that will walk you through that. So I have 5 witnesses tonight. I have my first, just so you know, the lineup is Eric Hof. He's my civil and traffic engineer, and then he'll address the PPOD regulations and how it applies and doesn't apply. I have Najim Jundi. He's our geotechnical engineer, who, if you're familiar with the 152 Ogden Avenue project, he was here. Raj Eklalakar is our structural engineer, so he can speak to the foundation and how this can support it. And we have Anthony Vandermark as our architect, and then Sam Bellamy will address the requested variance. So with all that being said, I'm going to bring up Mr. Hof and start this off.
Good evening.
Swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
For the record, can you state your name, please?
My name is Eric, E-R-I-C, Hough, H-O-U-G-H.
Good evening, sir. I believe we've qualified you in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Should I go through my credentials?
No, just let us know if your license is current tonight.
It is current.
Okay, and that's in the state of New Jersey, correct? Okay, thank you. You're qualified.
And just for the record, Mr. Hof is being presented as an expert in civil engineering and a traffic engineer.
Okay.
Yes. All right, so to go over the location, I would like to first show sheet 1.1 of our site plan set. These are the plans that have already been submitted. The site is located at 216 Palisades Avenue, which is on the east side of Palisades Avenue. It is Lot 8, Block 6001. The property is 6,640 square feet, or 0.15 acres, and it is rectangularly shaped. Existing site conditions. The site is currently vacant and was previously developed with a 2-story building along the north property line. There is an existing depressed curb driveway on Palisades Avenue in the center of the frontage. There is an existing sidewalk currently along Palisades Avenue. The site is gently sloped down from west to east with an approximate elevation of 115 along Palisades Avenue down to an approximate elevation of 111 in the rear of the property, which is a 3.6% slope. To talk about the proposed site, I like to show the next slide. This is sheet 1.2, which is our site plan. The building footprint, the proposed building footprint is approximately 4,900 square feet, and the building will be a 10-story senior housing building with a total of 51 units. As far as vehicular access, there is one 18-foot wide driveway to access the parking garage. This is located on the north side of the frontage, further away from the Jefferson Street intersection than the existing driveway. Left turn egress out of the site will be restricted at all times. Pedestrian access, there is a lobby at sidewalk grade located on the south side of the site. As far as parking, the city ordinance requires a total of 11 parking spaces, and there will be a total of 11 spaces provided in the garage, including 8 mechanical spaces. There's also bus stops available in the area up and down Palisades Avenue. For street improvements, it is proposed to replace the curbing and sidewalk along Palisades Avenue. There will be 2 proposed tree wells along the frontage, which are 5 feet by 10 feet. It is also proposed to mill and repave this section of Palisades Avenue. As far as the drainage and utilities, I like to show sheet C 1.3. We do have a proposed underground detention system located under the parking area. This will collect the stormwater from the roof and connect to the system in Palisades Avenue. There will be new sanitary, gas, water utilities that will be connected from Palisades Avenue. And also there is new overhead electric service from the existing utility pole on the north side of the frontage. It should be noted that the property is located in the Palisades Preservation Overlay District, the PPOD. However, the slopes of the subject lot are well below the steep slope limits identified in the ordinance. The property is above the Palisades and is located 140 feet away from the top edge of the cliff face with an existing parking lot in between. Therefore, the development requirements of the PPOD do not apply to this application. At this point, I would like to talk about the traffic impact of the development. To do our study, NJDOT traffic counts were used along Palisades Avenue from data collected in 2018. These counts were made approximately 0.5 miles north of the site. It was found that Palisades Avenue has a volume of 400 to 470 peak hour trips in each direction in the AM and PM. It should be noted that additional counts were made in April 2022, and the total traffic volume was found to be less than the 2018 NJDOT counts. So for a conservative analysis, we use the higher volume counts from 2018. The AM peak hour was found to be 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. With vehicles traveling southbound to the Holland Tunnel. In the PM, the peak was found to be 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., with the majority of traffic traveling northbound. As far as the proposed trip generation, we didn't account for any mass transit use, and there will be a total of 11 trips anticipated in the AM peak hour and a total of 13 trips in the PM peak hour. The overall level of services of all approaches of the Palisades Avenue site driveway intersection will be adequate with the addition of the site-generated traffic. I would like to speak about the existing intersection of Palisades Avenue and Jefferson Avenue. This intersection is T-shaped, with Jefferson Avenue being one-way westbound away from Palisades Avenue. As far as accident history, we received data from Jersey City, and it was found that approximately 9 accidents were recorded at this intersection in a 2-year span. As far as the need for potential traffic signal, we did a warrant analysis, and this intersection does not meet any of the warrants as far as traffic volume, pedestrian volume, or crash experience. What we are doing as far as intersection improvements, we use the Jersey City Vision Zero action plan to incorporate painted bump outs as well as bollards at the intersection to improve visibility, and solar-powered flashing lights at the pedestrian crossings to improve pedestrian safety. We've also worked with the Jersey City Traffic Division, and we can comply with all of their recommendations. It is my professional opinion that this intersection will be considerably safer with these proposed improvements, and the proposed development will not have a significant negative impact on traffic in the area. So that was really my direct testimony.
Any questions for Mr. Hoff?
I have none. Anybody else at this time, anyway?
So, yeah, mic's on, thanks. So you said there would be no left-hand turn coming out of here?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there a way to work with the city if this were approved to have some sort of like bollards or, I wouldn't say a Jersey barrier, but something to, like they have on New York Avenue in Ravine. You can't no longer go down New York Avenue.
Yeah.
You have to go around.
Understood. We can work with the city. Right now, we just propose no left turn signage out of the site, but we can work with the traffic division to come up with something.
And as a lifelong resident in Jersey City, I've seen no left turns where people make left turns.
Yes,
So.
yes, of course.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So my next witness is Mr. Najim Jundi.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And for the record, can you spell your name, please?
Nijim Jundi, first name Nejm, last name Jundi, Jundi.
Mr. Jundi, good evening. Your license is current tonight in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're qualified.
And Mr. Jundi, for the record, you prepared a geotechnical report with regard to the property, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, can you walk through that for the benefit of the board?
Yes, sure. We were retained to do a geotechnical investigation on the site with the idea of finding where the rock is and what's the quality of the rock. We completed 3 borings placed diagonally across the site from east to west. The rock elevation, while the rock depth varied a little bit, but the rock elevation ended up being almost flat, elevation 101 to 102, about 12 feet on average below the existing surface. Soil was found to be suitable to support a 10-story building, so it can be either supported directly on rock or on the soil. There's no slope stability issue here. You were 100 feet away from the face of a cliff, so we're good to go in that regards.
Can you use a mic, please?
Sure.
No, Mr. Harrington.
Oh, sorry.
We have the handheld there.
Oh, okay. Mr. Jundi, in your review of the site, did you find any issues with putting a foundation at the site on the bedrock?
No.
Okay, and again, if I don't know if you specifically said at the depth of the bedrock at the site, what was your findings there?
As far as depth, it was on average around 12 feet down, and elevation is constant, elevation 101 to 102 below the existing surface.
What does that mean? Does it slope a little bit?
Very flat almost.
Okay.
Over a site this long.
So, sir, the bedrock's 12 feet below the surface.
Yes. I have nothing further for Mr. Jundi.
Okay. Anybody else for Mr. Jundi? Any questions? No. Okay, thank you, Mr. Jundi. We appreciate it.
Okay, then my next witness is our structural engineer.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
For the record, can you spell your name, please?
Raj, R-A-J, last name is Ekhalkar, E-K-H-A-L-I-K-A-R.
Good evening, sir.
Good
I don't
evening.
believe we've qualified you in the past, have we?
Could you repeat that?
I don't believe we've qualified you in the past, have we?
I don't believe that.
Okay, if you could just give us a little of your background, your educational experience, and your licensing in New Jersey.
Okay. I graduated as a civil engineer, and I have a master's in civil engineer also, structural engineering. After that, I worked for different companies, including some of the biggest companies like Burns & Rowe, Covanta, and I have 30 licenses in different states. And I own the company that's EXL Engineers. I'm the president, and also we have some international clients. We have domestic clients. We do projects all over U.S., including California, Texas, Michigan.
Okay, and one of those 30 licenses, sir, I hope is New Jersey?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, thank
And it's
you.
current?
You are qualified.
Yes, it is current.
It is current? Okay, thank you. You're qualified, sir. And if you could just get right up on that mic so everybody can hear you nice.
So, Mr. Eklahar, have you had an opportunity to review the geotechnical report, the civil engineering plans, and the architectural plans for this project?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And are you aware of the proposed type of foundation they're going to use here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And do you see any issues with this project on the existing bedrock or this property?
No, I mean, this is a dream come true for a civil structural engineer to design these foundations, So it has bedrock, it has, it's 12 foot deep. We have a basement, it's almost at the same elevation as the basement. We have bedrock that is almost like 12 KSF bearing pressure, which is pretty, very high, basically. So we can put the foundations, we can put like a mat foundation or individual foundations, okay, so very easily for that kind of loading, okay. It's typically, anywhere in New Jersey, most of the sites you get like 2 or 3 KSF bearing pressures, okay, but here we are getting as much as 12 KSF, okay, so it's a pretty good, decent foundations we can provide here on that bedrock.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Okay, is there any blasting that has to happen
That's
as far
what
as the
we
bedrock
will
goes?
Avoid. I think for in this case, we will be avoiding any blasting, okay? Or, I mean, there might be some little chipping and all that stuff might have been done to level the surface, to put the foundation on a level surface, okay?
Okay.
So NIJM's report clearly says that we can have a maximum slope of 1 to 10, basically. So just to level it up, we might have to do some little bit of chipping and all that stuff, but nothing, no blasting. Right?
Okay, so chipping, you're talking just, chipping machine,
Yeah.
no blasting,
No
no,
blasting, yeah.
okay, no heavy machinery.
Just
on
for everybody's record, So there is also, we don't want to use it here, but I'm just mentioning this out, okay? There's now a chemical also that you can drill some holes and leave the chemicals inside. Next day you come in, the rock will be shattered, okay? I mean, like
Yeah.
cracked up, okay? So, but we don't want to use any of that, just for
Okay.
your information.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Any question on structural engineering?
Mr. Harrington, can we just get into the type of foundation for the public benefit, just exactly what type of foundation is being proposed so that
Sure.
everybody understands? Are we talking about footings? Obviously, we're laying it on the bedrock.
Bedrock, absolutely. So
What are
basi-
we laying on the bedrock in layman's terms? Is it a spread footing? Could you explain that?
Yeah, basically, we just have to look at the loading. We have to look at the column locations. We will work it out with the architect, the exact locations of the columns. And the walls on both sides, on either side of the property will have like a continuous wall, I believe. Okay, that will be our support. So there will be continuous footings on either ends of, I don't know, the two sides, okay? So basically, not on the palisade, but the other two sides, okay? We'll have like a regular
On the side
spread
yards.
footings, yeah, regular footings, And wherever we have columns, we will have like either a isolated footing or like a spread footing also there,
That will sit.
What's that?
Those footings are going to sit on the bedrock.
On the bedrocks, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So another question is the variance proposed is for buffer on the south side of the building, which is, I think, towards a pharmacy, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So I don't know the reasoning for having 10 feet, but I suspect to give one's neighbor quiet enjoyment. So is the materials that will be facing the proposed project towards the pharmacy durable enough to give the proposed project and its neighbor sufficient quiet enjoyment?
I think that might be a better question for the architect.
Bring Anthony on.
Good segue.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think we're good for now.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so on cue, our next expert is Mr. Vandermark.
Sure, hope I don't disappoint. Okay.
Swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Sure, that is Anthony C. Vandermark Jr., Vandermark, principal of the architectural firm of Minervini, Vandermark, Amelia, and Kelly.
Mr. Vandermark, good evening. We've obviously qualified you numerous times in the past.
Good evening, Chair.
Your license is current tonight?
It is current tonight.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're qualified.
Okay, Anthony, take us away.
All right, great. We're here tonight, again, to propose a 10-story, 51-unit senior housing building, which is located in the medical zone district here in Jersey City. Very briefly, I'll just give you some quick background. The civil engineer, and he's already given us some traffic, so I'll kind of move through the introduction very quickly.
Anthony, before we go too much further, do we need to mark this as an exhibit?
Yes, we do. The slide deck needs to be marked a whole exhibit, correct?
All right, so we're up to A2. We'll mark it as the Vandermark slide deck. How many decks? 1 through 19? Did I hear correctly?
We have 17.
Okay. And I suspect some of this is sheets out of the architectural set, obviously.
The majority of the information here is colored examples of what's in the filing set.
Right.
We have a few aerials, as support information here, but there's nothing that changes what the application base is here.
So, Mr. Harrington, we'll just submit this after the hearing, obviously, electronically to planning for purposes of the record. So A2 in evidence is the Vandermark slide deck 1 through 17.
Thank you, counsel.
Thank you.
Sheet 2 of the slide deck, it gives you a overall aerial of the medical zone district here in Jersey City. We are towards the northern portion of the medical district. As you can see, it extends pretty far south along Palisades, almost all the way to Route 139. So again, here in the purple as indicated, that is the medical zone. Going back to the site itself, 6,640 square feet. We have 60.39 linear feet of frontage on Palisades Avenue. Directly across from us at the T intersection is Jefferson Ave. Slide to the right, just talk about some quick pre-existing conditions. Directly to our north of the site, we have the CarePoint one-story gabled administration building. Directly to our south, as you can see, we have a 3-story wood-framed pharmacy at the base, 2 stories of residential, as previously mentioned. Across from the intersection, on the north side of the intersection, is a 3-story nursing home, and we have a 3-story mixed-use structure to the southwest of the intersection. So within this intersection, we have various uses and various structure types here. So pre-existing conditions, the site is now vacant, has since been demolished. The original site had 100% impervious coverage between pavement, asphalt, and building structure. We are definitely going to improve on that as part of this application. The civil engineer had mentioned we're providing a stormwater detention system here, so already we are improving the stormwater runoff from the pre-existing condition that has since been cleared to what we're proposing this evening. Center top slide here is the pharmacy with the residential units above.
This is the trigger point for the 10-foot buffer. This evening, we are providing a 3'9" C-type variance, within that buffer zone. And what I'm going to describe here tonight is that we think this is the best option for this application. Is the only reason why we're seeking this one variance, because we think it is a better site plan as proposed, as opposed to a as-of-right application, which I can certainly do. Top slide to the right-hand side, looking north, the administration building again with the gable roof. Lower left-hand side, again, Care Points Administration Building. And then directly from across the street on Jefferson Avenue, looking at the site. Proposed site plan was previously described by Mr. Ho. General parameters of the project. So of the 51 units, we are proposing 6 studios, 43 one-bedrooms, and 2 3-bedrooms, which are at the upper floors. We're proposing a 10-story structure that is at 100 feet, which is compliant with the medical district here in Jersey City. We're proposing 1 second-floor gym space for 575 square feet. We have 1 rooftop amenity as part of this application. The medical district permits 80% lot coverage. At our biggest footprint area, which is at floors 2 through 10, we are proposing 74% lot coverage. So we are actually 6% less of what is permitted here. The ground floor, we are proposing 70% lot coverage. So we are 10% less than what is permitted. The building at the front yard is at a 16-foot setback. At the north side, we are at 0. At the south side, we are 3'9", thus requesting the variance. And at the rear, adjacent to the parking lot, which is on the eastern side, we are at 6'4". Part of the application, we are proposing 11 parking spaces, again, which is compliant with the medical district, 8 mechanical, and 3 at grade level. That includes 1 ADA compliant space. We are proposing a compliant, state-required 2 EV charging stations as part of this application. We're proposing 9 bicycle parking spaces, which is compliant with the district. 27 of them are within the building footprint located in the cellar, accessed by elevator. And we have 2 outside the front door entry. The proposed site plan here on the left is colored. As previously mentioned, we are providing street improvements here with a bollard system so people cannot temporarily pull out in front of the building and load. In addition to, it was important because we received comments from the neighborhood, in previous neighborhood meetings that people have a tendency to stop their car here and run into the pharmacy. So this bollard system extends all the way in front of the pharmacy, thus eliminating that double park situation at the pharmacy and creating an unsafe condition at the intersection. Working your way in, obviously a proposed new curb, 2 new proposed street trees as compliant with the Jersey City forestry standard. We are proposing 1 new bench in between those 2 street trees. Directly at the front apron, bottom right-hand corner of the site plan before you are the 2 outdoor bicycle parking spaces. Centrally located within that 16-foot setback, we have a 377 square foot green zone. If I zoom into the front of the building here, you can see that is centrally located. We located the driveway apron and the curb cut all the way to the northern side of this property, taking you furthest away from that intersection, trying to create even a safer condition. We have an understanding that, you have to provide parking as part of this application for an as-of-right. The curb cut is placed at the maximum distance from where the intersection is. Again, it's 18 feet wide. We have a small landscaped planter section just to the left or to the north of that concrete apron. Centrally located building at 10 stories. We have a 490 square foot amenity space centrally located with a 1,775 square foot roof deck area, which is on the eastern side of the roof. We're proposing a generator and an air handler unit. There might be some smaller mechanical as part of this application. They will be centrally located above the principal roof, not on the bulkhead roofs. They will be screened from view, just in case. And again, we have 2 stair bulkheads and 1 elevator bulkhead that's centrally located, which is on the southern portion of the building. The property is surrounded by a concrete paver system, which is decorative until you actually hit the sidewalk line. Just for the record, we are providing a LED in the driveway apron, a pedestrian warning strip. We also have a eye-level pedestrian strobe, which is building mounted, and I will walk you through the inside of the garage space on the next slide. A few things to note, right side of this page. Yes, we are requesting a C-type variance for the remaining 6'3" portion of that 10-foot buffer zone. The portion that we have added to the application is approximately 4,932. However, the red zone to the front of this graphic is the actual footprint area that is permitted as part of this application. And with that footprint area, we have approximately 8,000 square feet that could have been permitted. So we have really a difference of 3,123 square feet of actually lost area as part of the application, if the board can understand that. So, you know, again, what we're requesting is less than what is permitted as part of this application, from 80% to 74%. Okay, right side, first floor plan, you know, working your way inward, centrally located, PSE&G gets its single transformer vault centrally located within the building footprint. That is at 25 feet wide, 17 feet deep. Directly behind that, accessed off the lobby space, is the fire command center. Technically, at this height, this building classifies as a high-rise construction because it has a habitable floor above 75 feet. In the garage, the drive aisle is a 22 feet wide, which is permitted by the ordinance. Again, we are providing 8 parking spaces. That is the first 3 in hatched area, and 2 directly on garage level, and then 1 ADA space. If you go to the lobby point, we have 2 elevators located in the center of the building, a mail space, a trash room, and a package room directly to the rear. This project is proposing independent carting, so therefore the trash will be moved through the ADA space and brought out into the apron and then independently carted away from the building. So again, this will not be municipal carting. This will be regulated by ownership and by a maintenance company. Graphic to the left, in between the layer of the rock and the first floor slab will be the stormwater detention system. That is dotted to the left, and again, that is in the drive aisle. We have various utility spaces, switchgear room, gas service, sprinkler. Centrally located is the car mechanical pit, and the bicycle parking space is to the rear. We don't envision the heights of these spaces being any greater than 7 feet in height, and our foundation system, as previously testified by the experts, will be somewhere around 12 feet where the rock is. So we have approximately 4 to 5 feet of distance in between the bottom slab of the cellar and where the rock is. This is a 3-dimensional rendering of the proposed lower part of the building, which is the 18-foot wide curb cut. Working your way down Palisades here to the south, we have 2 proposed street trees, and again, a 377 square foot buffer zone. Bottom part of the building, as part of this application to give the drivers actually more time to anticipate the pedestrians. We have a setback of 16 feet to the building line. We have an additional 16-foot setback to the garage door. So we have the ability to queue 2 cars in front of the sidewalk line here, you know, prior to actually reaching the sidewalk and then reaching the driveway apron to exit right turn only here. So we have a shorter building. We have generous setbacks here to the garage door. And this is part of the reason why we're requesting this variance of 3'9", is that we have a shorter, fatter building as opposed to a longer building, which is a little bit more unsafe. That'll put the building line right at the sidewalk line. So we think this is a better solution. to this application as opposed to an as-of-right project. Lower part of the building, and I'll get into the elevations. This is a all ACM aluminum composite material facade, and I will get into the aesthetics of the facade as we get into the elevations. On the lower floors, second floor plan is the floor plan on your left. We are proposing 5 one-bedrooms at the second floor, and they range from a size of 645 square feet to 720 square feet. On this level, the white square to the back facing east is a 575 square foot gym. Each one of these floors have an as-of-right 5-foot cantilevered balcony section that services the units in the rear. Each balcony section is set back from the side yards for privacy 5 feet in from the property line. So we're anticipating little impact on the adjacent property owner's rear yard. We do have a privacy screen to the right of that extended balcony. As part of this application, to Mr. Lipsky's question, we have a decorative, the majority of an opaque solid pattern. We do have, due to the setback, we have a few windows at the corners of this building. But again, we do not think noise is going to be a factor, and we do think that this facade, of course it's subjective, is aesthetically pleasing. And so I think that the 3'9" with the amount of opaqueness on this facade will certainly create privacy for the adjacent property owner. Just for the record, that property owner is at 0 lot line for a portion of that building. The building does set back and have windows at 3'1", and then it setbacks again, which is at approximately 5 feet. So we're not cutting off any lot line facing windows, and between our 3'9" and their 3'1", we have approximately 6'10" in between their window line. So it's a pretty comfortable dimension for both safety, for our fire rating reasons, and then also for privacy. Graphic on the right is floors 3 through 8. And on 3 through 8, we have 6 units. We have 5 one-bedrooms at the same range at 645 to 720. And in place of the gym space, we have a line of studios at 550 square feet. Rear facade of the proposed project. Again, the design motif is pulled to the rear. This is the eastern face. There will be a 5-foot cantilevered balcony extension with privacy separation, and we are not proposing any outdoor lighting on these balconies right now. Base of the building is in the same cladding system. There's a pre-existing retaining wall that is part of the medical parking lot that is to remain. And as you can see, we have design graphic directly behind at 6'4". Floors 9 and 10. This comes down to 5 units once again, 4 one-bedrooms at 650 to 725, and each one of these levels here highlighted in blue has a 3-bedroom at floors 9 and 10 at 1,265. So within the program, again, 6 studios, 43 one-bedrooms, and 2 3-bedroom units as part of this application. At the rooftop, again in the center, a 490 square foot amenity with a 1,775 square foot outdoor deck to the rear, centrally located, screened-in mechanicals. Going back to the facade, again at 10 stories and 100 feet in height, we have a 2-colored ACM aluminum composite material facade system here. The design concept is that we have a front facade, which is in the bone white or the off-white color here. And then we have the peeling away of this facade. As you can see, we have various curved portions, almost like a tin can as if it was being pulled off of the facade. And we have a secondary facade with a different window pattern, which is in the charcoal gray. So we have that at multiple locations, including the top left-hand corner. And again, that translates back into the base of the building where the garage is and also the main entry point with entry canopy. At 100 feet, we are proposing a 14-foot, 6-inch high floor-to-floor height between first and second floor. And then from floors 2 through 10, we are at 9'6". The building is probably going to be cast in place needs to be verified by ownership, but that is of an 8-inch slab thickness, so therefore we will have at least a finished ceiling height of 8'10". Again, we have a rooftop amenity space that should be 10 feet in height. Not shown on this graphic, and I apologize to the board, there will be an elevator overrun in the center, which will be approximately 4 feet in additional height on top of this. Side facade, again, Mr. Lipsky is the decorative panel. This is a cement board panel in 2 colors to mimic what's going on in both front and rear facades. Because of the setback, we were permitted a certain percentage of window opening. So on the southern portion of the side facade, we have a row of windows basically to the east and a row of windows to the west as part of that facade. Northern facade, again, cement board panel in multiple color, cantilevered balconies matching the front facade. And then coming back to the side facade now, which is facing north. We have a centrally located light well that will break up the definition of this long facade. The building shadowing, we're very fortunate of the position of this building and the adjacent properties here. Sun rising in the east and swinging south and west. As you can see, the shadows are cast either to across Palisades Avenue and further north above the administration building, and then over the parking lot at the end of the day. So again, it has a minimal amount of impact, really on the adjacent properties and neighborhood because of the sun angle and the positioning of the building. Again, in closing, we think we have a really great application here. We think there's certainly a need for senior housing at 51 units. This is our application this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vandermark. Council, do you want to question first before the
I
board?
have no further questions for Anthony.
Okay. Mr. Vandermark, the setback of the garage entrance, I think it's actually very interesting. But I did want to explore what this building would look like if you didn't give that front yard buffer and
Yes.
took the building in narrower. Would you still be able to have that drive aisle?
I brought that exhibit to you, Chair, because I anticipated this question. And, the building would have to be reconfigured. We can still comply with both the parking requirement. However, the building with the 10-foot buffer puts the drive aisle and curb cut directly on the sidewalk. It'll be the same number of units, but again, the first floor will be reconfigured.
We should probably mark this.
Is it A3, I believe? we're up to?
A3 we're up to.
A3, what are we calling this? Exhibit 1?
Exhibit 1, and the bottom right-hand corner of this exhibit shows the massing of that 10-story, 100-foot building sitting right on top of the sidewalk line. Again, this would be a fully zoning compliant volume at a fully permissible 80% lot coverage. We just would have to reconfigure the first floor. And again, I think this application is not as strong and is not as safe as the one we're proposing this evening.
So, Mr. Vandermark, does this have a date on it?
This would be dated 12/29/23.
That's my wife's birthday.
Didn't need to know that, but thank you. So, Mr. Vandermark, if we're looking at that first floor on the upper left, this is what a setback compliant footprint looks like?
That's correct.
And is it your testimony that as a result of a setback compliant footprint, you would not be able to provide the drive aisle that was being presented in the application as far as from the curb to the garage entrance?
Yes. So both the front yard setback and then the setback of the garage door, and then ultimately the drive aisle within the garage wouldn't be achievable, in an as-of-right project.
Thank you, Mr. Vandermark.
Thank you.
My other question would be, move-ins.
Yes.
Could they happen in that driveway as it's currently proposed? If it's scheduled?
They could literally do move-ins within the paver area. You certainly have a 30-foot depth where it can occur, and they could actually pull material through the garage and then through the ADA space and then ultimately the elevator. Or if need be, the moving truck, if sized properly, can enter the garage and load directly to the, it'd be north of the ADA parking space drop-off area. So there's two ways of actually being able to do this.
And I'd note for the record that the Jersey City Traffic Department also pitched the idea of providing for a loading zone directly to the north of the property that they would support. The applicant, would have to seek that through the city council, but that is something that they have supported in their correspondence to us.
Yeah,
But
correct.
that's not property
Sir, we
that
can't,
you own,
we can't
correct?
have people talking out from the public. There will be time for
Yeah, we'll
public
give you
comment.
time. That's, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so there's already been an exchange about a short-term loading zone to the north of this property that would service both this building and the CarePoint Administration Building adjacent to us.
Okay, understood. And my last question, I believe, at this point, your testimony was that the cellar ceiling height would be 7 foot,
Yes,
and this is a sprinkled building, your testimony was?
sprinkled building, yes.
And what's the regulation on how low that piping can be?
I mean, those pipes could be side-mounted, so they'd be a side throw. If I needed 6 inches on this building, still where the rock level is, I certainly could take it. But we would be, what we think is probably, because additional height creates additional construction costs, not that we're supposed to talk about it here, but sprinkler-wise, we should be able to run it, through the wall system on a side mount. So we shouldn't have any head clearance issues there.
Okay, they're masonry walls, block, or they're foundation wall?
The wall to the right and the wall to the top, which would be the eastern portion, and the front, these would be all block walls here.
Okay, understood. Okay, at this point, those are my only questions for Mr. Vandermark. Anybody else?
No.
Anybody? As always, that was very detailed. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vandermark.
Okay, then our last witness is going to be Mr. Bellamy.
Do you want to slide up or no? You want the map, this map?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
For the record, state and spell your name.
Sure. Samuel Bellamy, last name Bellamy. I'm a licensed professional planner with the firm Dresner Robin, and my license is current and in good standing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellamy. You're qualified.
Yeah, Mr. Bellamy, you've had the opportunity to review the plans and reports submitted in connection with this application?
Yep, reviewed the plans, reports, the zoning ordinance and master plan, and also made a site visit as part of my preparation for tonight's hearing.
Thank you, and can you provide the board the benefit of your review and analysis as to the requested variance?
Yeah, so as you indicated in your introduction, we are just requesting the one bulk C variance tonight for the minimum buffer to a residential use. We are located in the medical district. The senior housing is a permitted principal use in that zone. As Mr. Vandermark indicated, I do agree that this certainly is pursuant to the C2 criteria, that flexible standard under the municipal land use law, where the benefits of what we're proposing, the benefits of the variance would outweigh any detriments, and also the benefits of the overall project. With respect to the requirement, it's a 10-foot buffer, and it's required from a residential zone or use. In this case, as indicated on the aerial being shown here, we're surrounded on the north, east, and south by the medical zone. The RC2 district is located across the street. There is a residential use. It's actually part of a mixed-use building with commercial ground floor and residential above. So from a conservative standpoint, we are considering that a residential use, which does trigger this 10-foot buffering requirement. As indicated, we're proposing a 3-foot 9-inch buffer here. I should also indicate that the senior housing I would classify as a residential use. So really looking at the intent of this requirement, generally the permitted uses within the medical district, medical offices and facilities are more intense than a residential use, a residential district. So I think that buffer requirement was really to kind of separate those a more intense use from a lesser intense use. In this case, a mixed-use building, and what we're proposing is a residential building. I think those are two compatible uses, and really, I think by providing a 3-foot 9-inch buffer, we are meeting the intent there. As Mr. Vandermark indicated, we're also proposing a greater front yard setback, 15 feet, where 0 foot's required. As testified to, that does provide benefits as far as the driveway access. You now don't have a driveway right at the sidewalk. But I think that also creates a front yard landscaping area, and that really is consistent with the general, the residential uses that are located along Palisade Avenue in the medical district. They generally are setback, have front yard area. So I think by providing that setback area, it's not only a safer alternative, but also a better design alternative that creates a more consistent streetscape. I would note that the adjacent building does have a 0-foot front yard setback, so there's a little bit separation there. And also, I think that 15-foot front yard setback actually provides a greater setback from the across the street where there are more residential uses, and as you get further west into the R1 district. So I think we're actually providing a greater buffer and transition from the senior housing project to the lower scale residential neighborhoods to the west. As Mr. Vandermark indicated, the adjacent building is on the lot line. There are windows where there's a window well and also to the rear, and we're proposing the windows at the corner of the building. So I don't think there's any direct negative impacts from the setback we're proposing. Overall, we're also providing approximately 5-foot rear yard setback. Again, that's greater than what's required here. And then in terms of floor area, the alternative with this design of the front and rear yard setbacks rather than the full 10-foot buffer side yard setback, it actually creates a little less floor area on the project than what an as-of-right building would. I did want to focus in on on my review of the master plan here. As a planner, this is an exciting project to be a part of. I work on a lot of projects in Jersey City. This is my first senior housing project that I've been involved with. As this board has seen, there's a number of projects now going forward under the IZO, the inclusionary zoning ordinance, as well as the affordable housing overlay. So that creates a certain subset of affordable housing. I think senior housing is also a subset of that equitable and balanced housing that the master plan seeks to be developed in Jersey City. In reviewing the master plan, there are certain lenses that the master plan was being looked at with. One of them was social equity and equitable Jersey City. That's providing inclusive and equitable housing supply, and specifically references welcome residents of all ages, backgrounds, and economic levels. So I think certainly senior housing provides an ability for not only existing residents to stay in Jersey City, but also potentially new residents come in. There's also a reference to ability to have access to community services. So as I indicated, senior housing is a permitted principal use in the medical zone. I think it's clear why this use is permitted here. It's to have the ability for seniors to access medical services that's in the surrounding area and in this zone. So I think there's a direct benefit to having senior housing where these community services are located, and less reliability on automobiles, and potentially you're able to just walk to your medical appointments. Certainly, as I stated, I think this does provide for a balanced housing within Jersey City. One of the potential goals of that is ensuring senior housing needs are met. Is and will be a very important priority in the future. That's direct language from the master plan. So I think this project certainly will be providing that. And then also strengthening neighborhood-oriented commercial uses, and also age-restricted housing should be considered in some locations. So again, I think this is an appropriate location, not only from being principally permitted, but also just generally having that access to the community goods and services. I'll also mention that the RC2 district, a newly created zone in Jersey City, is on the west side of Palisade Avenue. So with that, there may be an introduction to further commercial uses, again, adding to the community services located along this Palisade corridor that the senior housing would be able to access. Overall, I think this project is consistent with the M district, recognizing the existing medical uses, and it's also respecting the residential zone. As I said, there's certain pockets of residential homes currently located in this district, but the general residential area is further west across the Palisade Avenue. This project does advance several of the purposes of the municipal land use law. Certainly, I think it's an appropriate use and development of the property that will promote the general welfare. Again, principally permitted use, adding new senior housing here. This property does have sufficient space and appropriate location for the proposed senior housing, with the exception of the buffer. And as I mentioned, we are providing greater setbacks in the front and rear. I think the site is suitable for the type of housing we're proposing here. I think we're also providing for appropriate setbacks that's consistent with Purpose C, and then also developing a currently vacant lot with an appropriate mixed senior housing building would promote a desirable visual environment. In my opinion, there's no substantial detriment to the public good or general welfare here. Likewise, I don't see a substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan. Again, it's a permitted use. It's actually what the zoning's call for. I think it's directly in line with the master plan and promoting several of the objectives and goals there. So I think it's actually advancing the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. In my conclusion, I'll just say I agree that, and it's my opinion that this project does meet the C2 criteria. The benefits would outweigh the detriments, and there's no negative impact here. So with that, I think the project meets both the positive and negative criteria, and that would conclude my direct testimony.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellamy. Actually, this question is more directed to Tanya, but I want to ask it while you're up on the stand. Tanya, in your report, in your staff report, you talk about the property next door, 212 Palisade Ave. Is residential a permitted use there?
No. So it's actually an existing legally non-conforming use. It's mixed use, ground floor commercial, and residential above.
Okay. But residential on this site is permitted because it's senior housing in the M district?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay, I
correct.
just want to be crystal clear on that.
Yes, that is correct, sir.
So if 212 Palisade Ave was a conforming use,
Yes,
the way it is in the plan,
correct.
does that residential buffer is that still in play? Is that still a variance that would have to be asked for, or could that 3'9" be that buffer if that residential use at 212 Palisade was something else?
So my instinct would say no, that it would not require the buffer. If you want to give me 1 second, I can just read the standard just so, do you have the standard? Just so, we're not mincing any words.
Well, so Tanya, just for purposes of clarity,
Yep, that's why I just want to make sure we're all,
in the event that 212 was a fully conforming building in terms of use in the M zone.
Yep.
So I'm going to call it a medical building of that size and that bulk. In that case, the buffer requirement would not be applicable? Is that the
That's-
analysis we're going through?
that's my instinct. I just want to make sure that the language talks about, the other, not I just want to make sure. I just want to pull up the language in it. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
so I have
it.
it here. It's minimum buffer adjacent to residential uses and zones, 10 feet.
Yeah, so I would say that the buffer doesn't apply because it's really talking about in relation to, other, adjacent to.
So now the fact that this is a mixed use,
Which one?
residential above the ground floor,
Yeah.
does the buffer trigger on the ground floor or just the floors above the ground floor where the residential is?
Just above. I mean, this was a point that we actually, I know Mr. Harrington said it earlier, had a full conversation with the zoning official at the time, and none of us were actually in agreement with each other. Because I was of the opinion that the buffer is not required. He was of the opinion that it was, as long as there was a residential use adjacent to the building. I don't think it's that clear, but just to be safe, the buffer is required.
He being the former zoning officer.
Yes, Nick Taylor, I apologize, yeah.
Right, so for everybody's understanding, Nick Taylor was the forming zoning officer. He made a determination, and obviously here we are dealing with the interpretation made by former zoning officer Taylor, essentially, which was conclusory in the sense of, he said the buffer is required, didn't really explain how he got to that conclusion. The applicant seeking the variance has just stated its position as to how it justified the proofs. And Director, you obviously are of the opinion that the buffer really doesn't apply, but it's possible that it could apply on the second and third floor. But we're dealing with a pre-existing non-conforming use on the adjacent property.
Right. Which is actually just mixed use, really. Right.
Right.
I think just a quandary here that we kicked around, and I think in reviewing this, maybe it takes you down the road to why relief is appropriate as well, is I think if you looked at, if there was a development on the adjacent property to the south, and you define the senior housing as a residential use, and then a buffer applied 10 feet there. On the other side of that property is a similar building that's a mixed use. So now you've got, I don't know if it's 25 or 30 feet wide, you've got a 10-foot buffer there and a 10-foot buffer there.
Yeah.
So relief is going to be appropriate on that property as well. I just don't think it works.
On council, I guess we'll get to that argument at some point during the closing. I think what the board has to consider in its mind right now is the board has to obviously understand we're in the M zone. This is senior housing. Senior housing is residential. So we all agree that senior housing is residential. The height is permitted, the use is permitted. So those are not up for debate. The only question in terms of relief being sought is this potential side buffer from really a mixed-use building, and what is appropriate, what is required, and then what proofs, if any, have been presented and or met to grant the deviation if a deviation is actually necessary. I say deviation, I guess should say variance is necessary. So that's what the board is being asked to consider by the applicant. The applicant's position, as I understand it, while they're asking for the variance, while they're presenting evidence and proof of the variance relief, the applicant doesn't agree that the buffer applies, and the director struggles with that as well and doesn't seem to agree that the buffer applies on this property based on the 212 pre-existing mixed use, which is non-conforming in the M zone. So of course, Chairman, that's something that the board will deal with and address, but that's really the crux of the issue. We're not talking about height, and we are not talking about use. Those are permitted as being proposed by the applicant.
Correct. Okay.
So just one thing, counsel, is if my memory serves me well, that Mr. Bellamy began his testimony, or in the fairly early portion of it, recognizing the rationale of the buffer and why decreasing it to 3.9 was justifiable. Am I correct?
Right.
Right. So, I mean, if we need to reread that, or I don't think so, but I mean, I think it spoke to, I don't want to put words into your, why, if you could just summarize, why 10, why 3.9?
Yeah, it's just to respect the different intensities between a residential use and a more intense medical district use. Obviously, we're not before the zoning board for an appeal of that ordinance, so I think we're conceding to the variance request, but I think it does meet the criteria here.
So if that's the case, counsel, if he's ceding to it and he's made testament that it conforms to the master plan and that the benefits far outweigh the detriments, then is there any further need to question what Nick Taylor did, what Tanya's viewpoint is, what Chuck's is?
Well, so I don't think it's that anybody needs to necessarily question it. They're asking for it. The purpose of questioning its being applicable in this case goes to weighing the detriments and whether or not those detriments are outweighed by the granting of a variance. So just because somebody says, I'll concede I need a variance, doesn't necessarily get you over the line that you do need a variance, right? They're saying we'll concede it, but here's the reason why we think it's justified. But if the board is saying, well, I'm not really thinking you need the variance, then that goes to one side of the column, right? To me, that goes in favor of why you would grant the relief being sought, because it's questionable whether a variance is actually necessary under these facts.
Right.
Okay. Sorry to take everybody down a little tangent there.
I think it transparently clarifies it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
out
the
there.
function.
Yeah. So
End of story.
that was my only question for Mr. Bellamy. I'll entertain any other questions from the board. Anybody? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bellamy.
Okay, so that then completes our presentation.
Mr. Harrington, I do want to run this by you and you know, its appropriateness, given that this is a legal matter. The residents of the neighborhood have hired a professional planner. My understanding is there's no attorney representing the neighborhood.
So, Chairman, I'm going to stop this right now. Mr. Harrington, you'll have a chance to opine on this. Why don't we have the professional come on up? I don't have any information, Chairman.
I have her information. Okay, do we have Miss McGurk in the room still? Good evening.
Never a dull moment here in the city.
I love it. I love
Good
mixing
evening,
it
Miss
up.
McGurk. So, Miss McGurk, according to your business card, you are a professional planner, I suspect licensed here in the state.
My license is current.
Let's get Miss McGurk sworn in first, please.
Sworn in testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your right, can you state and spell your
Colleen McGurk, Colleen, McGurk.
So, Miss McGurk, normally, I guess, let's start it this way. By whom were you retained to appear here this evening?
The Sergeant Anthony Park Neighborhood Association.
Okay. And was that an action done by their governing body? Do they have a governing body? Do you know the answer to these questions?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know who your point of contact has been?
Yeah. Norris
Rainmaker.
Rainmaker.
Okay.
Sorry.
I suspect that's you, ma'am. Can you come forward, please?
I have handouts. I have handouts, yeah. Oh, sorry.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name and give us your home address, please?
Sure. It's Norrice, last name Raymaker, 109 Palisade Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
So forgive my questions. This is just out of the ordinary for us. We usually have an opposing attorney that comes in and makes a case and, cross-examines the applicant's witnesses. And by all means, they're allowed to hire outside planners, architects, the such. So I'm interested. I want to hear what your planner has to say. I just want to go through the process and make sure that, she was hired by the neighborhood association. I do need to explore this. That's all. So she was hired by the
Yes.
neighborhood association. Okay. And there's no attorney present. There's no other cross-examination happening.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else, Santo? Anything else we need?
So, no, Ms. McGurk, I appreciate that you are a licensed planner and that you've been retained by the neighborhood association. I guess Ms. McGurk will provide her testimony. I suspect that you want to be heard during the public portion with your potential exhibits. We're not going to allow every member of the association to provide comments. Once the association puts its representation on, any member is then spoken for by the representative of the association, which I suspect is you, ma'am. Is that fair?
I think I would like to ask my neighbors who are here with me who they would like to represent. I've been told,
Fair.
I've been advised that, that the planning board listens more carefully or takes the testimony of experts at a higher value than that of the neighbors. And so that is why we have someone here with us tonight, because we are concerned that our voices will not be heard. There aren't a
Agreed.
lot of us here tonight. There are maybe 6 or 7 people.
So, Chair,
And we promise that we won't duplicate, we won't go on and duplicate each other's comments. We'll simply just come up and say, I agree with what has been stated, and
That's fine. I
we
just
won't
want to
take
make
up so much time.
I just want to make sure that, and yes, we do, if we have an expert witness in front of us, we qualify them as an expert. So their testimony does carry in, a legal situation more weight than someone who's not an expert. So I love this. I love that you brought a planner with you. I think it's a great idea. So I do want to hear Ms. McGurk. And by all means, confer with, the rest of the neighborhood association, and we'll come right back to you.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you, I
Anything
appreciate
else
it.
I need to? Nope.
So, Ms. McGurk, we do need to qualify you
Yes.
as an expert now. So if you could just give us your background, your educational background,
Okay.
and licensing.
Yes. I received my master's in urban planning from Boston University in Massachusetts. I opened up Swick, Stahl, and McGurk Planning Associates in 2019. I'm a member of AICP. My planning license is current. I have testified before multiple municipalities, including Piscataway, Woodbridge, Edison, Metuchen, Old Bridge, East Brunswick, and actually the Jersey City Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Okay, and that planner's license is held in New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay, the best state in the world. Thank you. So you are qualified.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I did take note that the applicant's attorney stated that they would consider doing 62 and up, which would meet the Jersey City land use ordinance. But there are certain things I do still want to get on the record, but I will try to keep it brief. Thank you. So tonight I will be discussing whether the planning board has jurisdiction over this application or whether it should be heard by the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and also aspects of this proposed senior housing application. The proposed application is within the M Medical Zoning District. The medical purpose is defined as to recognize the existing medical facilities in the city and other medical-related uses traditionally associated with these facilities. The medical zone permits medical offices, ambulatory care facilities, offices, diagnostic centers, rehabilitation centers, assisted living residences, nursing homes, senior housing, public utilities, except that natural gas transmissions lines shall be prohibited, and schools limited to the medical district in Greenville. All of these permitted uses have some type of linkage to the existing medical facilities. Residential uses are not permitted, nor is a residential development for ages 55 and up. The Jersey City Land Development Ordinance 345-6 defines senior housing as housing that is located and designed to meet the special needs and accommodate the changing living arrangements of an elderly population age 62 and older. This proposed development so far has been developed for 55 and up, and therefore does not fit the definition in the city's own ordinance. The municipal land use laws identifies the purposes of the act. Senior citizen community housing is encouraged under Purpose L. Senior citizens defined, for the purpose of this act, a senior citizen is any person who has attained the age of 62 years on, or after the effective date of this act, or the spouse of that person, or the surviving spouse of that person, if the surviving spouse is 55 years of age or older. The MLUL would not supersede the local ordinance because the municipal's requirement is in compliance with the state's definition of senior citizens. The applicant's proposal of constructing units to accommodate those aged 55 and older is not in compliance with the municipal land use ordinance or municipal land use laws. The applicant must either seek approval from the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a use variance or modify his application to comply with state regulations and local ordinances. In addition, although the proposed luxury housing is proposed to meet federal fair housing laws for senior housing, it is not complying with state regulations. States have the power to enact laws that are more protective of individual rights than the standards set by federal law. Certain states set their own fair housing legislation, which requires a resident of that state to adhere to both federal and state housing regulations. The Federal Housing Act protects all residents from discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, handicap, or familial status. The Housing for Older Persons Act of 1995 creates an exception to Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 in order to allow for senior housing developments. Senior housing facilities and communities are exempt from liability for familial status discrimination under HOPA. Exempt senior housing facilities or communities can lawfully refuse to sell or rent dwellings to families with minor children. In order to qualify for HOPA, a facility or community must prove through residential surveys and affidavits that its housing is provided under any state or federal program that the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development has determined to be specifically designed and operated to assist elderly persons, or intended for and solely occupied by persons 62 years of age or older, or intended and operated for occupancy by persons 55 years of age or older. In order to qualify for the 55 or older housing exemption, a facility or community must satisfy each of the following requirements. At least 80% of the units must have at least one occupant who is 55 years of age or older, and the facility or community must publish and adhere to policies and procedures that demonstrate the intent to operate as 55 and older housing, and the facility or community must comply with HUD's requirement for age verification of residents. It should be noted that the fair housing laws provide a legal exception for protection against familiar status discrimination, but does not force any community to require the construction of such facilities. In addition, states have the power to enact laws that are more protective of individual rights than the standards set by federal law. DCA utilizes New Jersey Administration Code 2021:26 for retirement communities, but DCA code does not supersede the municipal land use law. However, the applicant must comply with both the MLUL and New Jersey Administrative Code. With regards to non-permitted accessory uses in the medical zoning district, uses incidental and accessory to the principal use such as parking garages and off-street parking, meeting rooms, conference facilities, gymnasiums and exercise rooms and pools, staff housing, medical training, including nursing and therapists, fences, walls, and signs. Rooftop decks are not listed as incidental or accessory use. It appears that the senior housing was listed as a permitted use to accommodate seniors with medical needs. This facility is a luxury facility for people aged 55 and older. The facility is proposing a rooftop deck, which is not a permitted accessory use. I also would like to discuss the possible D6 variance with regard to the height. The vertical distance measured to the highest point of a building from the finished grade, a building's highest point shall be determined in accordance with height exemptions. This is from the ordinance. Requirements for roof deck and terraces. Terraces shall provide privacy screening that measures 6 feet high. This standard shall not apply to any terrace encroaching into a front yard, in addition to any unamenitized or non-mechanical appurtenances. Areas on the roof shall be provided with green roof, solar panels, or another form of green infrastructure. In historic districts and historic overlay, roof decks and terraces shall not be visible from the street and shall provide a setback of minimum 10 feet from any front facade. Roof decks on the uppermost roof area are permitted a maximum of 80% coverage of said roof area. Any unamenitized or non-mechanical appurtenances roof areas shall provide green roof, solar panels, or another form of green infrastructure. Roof decks atop the base podium of a tower or high-rise development do not have a roof deck coverage limit. Roof-mounted mechanical equipment shall have a level 3 sound enclosure or highest available manufacturer standard. Coverage and setback standards for roof decks or terraces in zone districts or redevelopment plans shall supplement or supersede these requirements. Requirements for roof structures enclosed as amenity spaces. In historic districts, enclosed amenity spaces are limited to a floor area maximum of 100 square feet. For buildings without elevator service to the roof, enclosed amenity spaces are limited to a floor area maximum of 100 square feet. In this case, this applies. For buildings with elevator service to the roof, enclosed amenity spaces are limited to a maximum of 100 square feet or 10% of the floor area of the roof, whichever is greater. Apparently the applicant did not include the elevator and the stairwells, which would be considered common space. So, and if we go along with all of its criteria, the building height should be considered 110 feet, not 100. The applicant did not count the area for the stairway or elevators, which should be considered common area in common language. Jersey City does not have a definition for the common areas. However, stairways and elevators are traditionally considered common areas in real estate terminology. I did find a definition on apartment.com, apartmentguide.com. I don't know if anyone has any other definitions that they could find, but it says stairwells and elevators for more than one person, which obviously this would apply. And also the rooftop amenity, according to my calculations, if you include the elevator and the stairwells, which is common space, would be greater than the 490 allowable rooftop area. So the proposed amenity space should be counted towards the height and the number of stories proposed. Therefore, the applicant is proposing 110 feet building height and 11 stories. The applicant should be required to request a D6 variance to build those structures that exceed the maximum permitted height by 10 feet or 10% from the Zoning Board of Adjustment. I also found an issue that's with the ADA parking spaces. They should be 18 feet in length to comply with federal ADA regulations. It appears that the applicant is counting the drive aisle as part of the required length. It should be noted that the city's parking definitions clearly state that the drive aisle should not be used to count towards the length of space. I could read that definition if you like, or I could just end my testimony.
No, I believe you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So I do, before we let you go, I want to go back and forth a little bit here with Tanya, maybe. Tanya, actually, you know what, I should. Yeah, I should let council cross first before I get into questions.
So, Mr. Harrington, just before you begin, Ms. McGurk, is that your direct testimony? Is there anything?
Yes, that's all.
Okay. So, Ms. McGurk, if I understand the testimony, correct me when I'm wrong, not a permitted use because it's not senior housing, because it's 55 and older.
Correct.
If it was 62 and older, then it would be
It would
permitted?
comply.
Okay. D6 height,
Yes.
avoiding this Board of Jurisdiction. And then the other variance, do you agree or disagree with the buffer requirement?
I did not have an issue, strong issue with the buffer requirement. Oh, I did, I don't know that they comply with the EV parking spaces either. I think that was mentioned in one of the engineer's reports, the city's engineer.
So not to oversimplify, but we've got 4 issues, 2 of which are jurisdictional in nature,
Correct.
and the other 2 would be variance requests, the other 2 being EV parking, and then the ADA parking space being undersized.
Correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Harrington, I believe in your opening you said that you would comply. I read the LDO is 62 and older. So I'm not really clear where the 55 and older that's kind of being thrown around is coming from. I didn't see it on the application. When I was looking at the form, it didn't indicate
No,
55 and older.
We applied for senior housing. The 55 age criteria came in discussions with the planning department as to what was the requirement or the floor, because it did read at 62 in the ordinance. It's read like that since 2001 when it was drafted. Excuse me. And state and other towns have 55. So the discussion led to, well, the state oversees this, so they would probably preempt the local ordinance at 55. That was the discussion at the time. So, upon, further review, I know that the municipalities can further restrict it at 62. So that's why I said earlier tonight, whatever is legally permitted, which I would think is the 62 and over. And my client is fine with the 55 or the 62. So we're here for the senior housing as permitted by the city of Jersey City.
So, Chairman, I would submit to the board that under the LDO here in the city, it's 62 and over. It's not 55. The ordinance is, in my opinion, crystal clear, 62 and older.
So just one thing then is, counsel, so do you or your client accept that? Or is there a different body that you think or could tell me that would opine differently?
No, we accept that.
Right.
And to be fair, I haven't given my comments yet, and I want 62. I think that's the interpretation of the ordinance. I think, Jersey City's ordinance, I think, supersedes the state as a more stringent ordinance, and I think that's, the way to go. But that's, a discussion for our comments later.
So, Mr. Harrington, I don't think we need to really get into that issue.
No.
The D6, I think you can either, do you have any questions for the witness, or do you just want to retort to her testimony?
And I
from a
apologize because
legal-
I was having a little bit of a sidebar when she was speaking to that, but I believe the issue there is, if I could retort, is that, the building height in the Jersey City ordinance is measured from, the average grade to the height of the building. The height of the building being the ceiling on the top floor. It does not include the rooftop appurtenances. There are special exceptions for that. So if that's the argument that those exceed that, well, they're not relevant because it's the 100 feet to the top of the building. The rooftop, all applications before this board, that's how it's interpreted.
Correct.
I also disagree that roof decks are not permitted because I think that's maybe how you logically or try to get there, that you're above the permitted height. Whereas the roof decks aren't specifically defined as accessory uses throughout the ordinance. It does speak to decks at times, but it doesn't speak to rooftop decks. So that is something that is just about on every application before this board and the zoning board. And I also note, for the record, that when we speak to accessory uses in the medical district, it says uses incidental and accessory to the principal use, comma, such as. So such as does not, these are not the defining, only ones that are permitted. It's what's accessory and incidental. What's accessory and incidental? A rooftop amenity space for senior housing is absolutely incidental and accessory. That's something that you would expect. So I don't think there's any D6 here. I don't think there's any jurisdictional issue here. I forget what the other issue that was raised.
I've got
The ADA.
EV parking and the size of the ADA space.
Well, the other thing is the size of correct me if I'm wrong, not
Hallway,
recognizing
yeah.
of the hallways or the gym or something, and that
The stairwells.
Stairwells.
And the
Stairwells.
elevator would be part of the common space that's used to get to the amenity, which is on
Now-
the rooftop.
That was my question for Tanya. Tanya, are stairwells, elevator, lobbies, are they considered an amenity space? I mean, the stairwells are egress space. So can they be considered amenity space? So I
So-
think that's,
It is, under the height exceptions, it is within the roof structure and appurtenances for the housing of stairways, tanks, fans, air conditioning, equipment. That's clearly within the elevator. Elevator's clearly within those parameters. The other part where it says rooftop structures is enclosed amenity space, it does say for buildings with elevator service to the roof, enclosed amenity space limited to a maximum of 100 square feet or 10%. According to their plans, it is 10%. So whether it's an amenity space or not might be irrelevant because it does meet the standard. Would I consider an elevator an amenity space? No, I would consider part of it an appurtenance. If then the amenity space was open to like a sink or even something like that, then that's a little bit different.
I think that's, and I'm showing my age here, I think that came out while Bob Cotter was still here. And I believe the trigger for that, I thought we talked about at the time, was a sink, a
A sink.
lav, something like that.
Yeah.
That, that would trigger an amenity space on a rooftop. But that's, that's not, if we're saying that it's at 10% now,
That's what their plans represent. So
okay, Mr. Harrington, is that accurate?
Yeah, I confer with the architect that we are compliant. We're within the 10 feet because we have the elevator service. So it's 100 square feet or 10% of the floor area of the roof, whichever is greater. So we are within that permitted 10%.
Okay, and then let's talk about the ADA parking spaces and the EV spaces.
My understanding, from the back and forth with the Jersey City Traffic Department, that we are in compliance with that. I can have, my experts speak to that if you'd like, but that's my understanding.
Okay, Ms. McGurk, do you know what the EV issue was? that you talked
I
about?
happened to notice it in one of the engineers' reports saying that they were lacking in EV spaces.
That they don't provide enough EV for the calculation.
Correct.
Okay. So I think that's civil engineering. Well, somebody calculated it.
Yes. As far as the EV parking, I believe the requirement for residential is 15% of the required parking, which is 11 in this case, which comes out to 1.6 EV spaces required. I know my plan says 1, but we can put 2 EV spaces in there. We can do a dual charger, and we will comply with EV.
And just for the record, I put that on testimony that we were providing 2 EV parking
I thought that was the testimony was 2.
Yes.
And can we talk about the size of the ADA space not meeting the requirement? And using the drive aisle to meet that requirement?
Okay, the drive aisle is taken from the edge of the mechanical parking spaces, and that travels all the way north of Plan at 22 feet. We have an 8-foot by 16-foot with a 8-foot loading zone, which creates a 16-foot width, which is the compliant width, and then at 18-foot depth is compliant for the depth of an ADA parking space. So I believe we are compliant with that.
So it's not the actual parking space, it's the striped
Yeah,
putting next to it?
Yeah, correct. The way Cabo ANSI reads is that, you know, it's a combined of 16 feet between parking space and loading zone. You see it sometimes represented slightly differently, where you'll get a 5-foot loading zone and then you get a 11-foot parking space. But the key here is the width of actually 16 feet, and again of the 18 feet depth of a standard parking space. So this is compliant.
How wide is the drive aisle?
22 feet.
Doesn't need to be 24?
Ms. McGurk, if you
Nope.
could please
The-
say it on mic for us.
Sorry.
The municipality accepts 22 feet as a drive aisle minimum.
Oh, okay, sorry, the standard's 24, I just thought.
RSIS is 24.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
The city ordinance is 22 minimum.
Okay, my error.
Oh, you're not wrong.
No, that's what we're here
24.
for.
Absolutely not.
That's all I
Okay.
have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McGurk. Mr. Harrington, anything else?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay, and you'll reserve the right for a closing statement after public comment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, let's open it up for public comment. If anybody's here from the public, please come on up if you'd like to speak on record.
You can put that right on that table if,
This one? Oh, okay.
I meant everything you were holding.
And I just need to swear you before you speak with me.
Yes,
Swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes,
For the record, can you state your name and give us your home address, please?
yes. I'm Pam Andes from Councilman Rich Bogiano's office. Here's my card. Oh, that's right.
I
Nice
think
to
this is the first
see
time in person.
Everybody in person.
Ms.
Oh,
Andes, are
yes.
you speaking on behalf of the councilman tonight?
I am, and
Okay.
I made things easier because I know I printed out copies of his statement. If I have permission to hand you copies of the statement.
Perhaps it's best that you read it.
I read it and then hand it out.
I think reading it is the way to go.
It's up to,
We're going to read, you're going to
Okay.
read the
Yeah, you're going to
statement.
read the statement for us.
Okay.
And then, obviously, planning would get a copy of it for the record. Mike-
Okay.
Mike, do you need a copy? Okay.
okay. And
Okay, so it would be part of the record if planning gets a copy of it. Correct, Tanya?
Okay.
And we'll mark it, Santo?
If she's going to read it into the record, then it speaks for itself as it's been read into the record as the councilman's statement. Uh, We will allow him to make a statement through Ms. Andes as his proxy. Because he's a councilman, normally, we don't allow people to speak through others, but we'll
Okay.
provide that courtesy.
I also have,
That is the lower height, small area vision plan. So that's part of a larger document, obviously.
right. I referred to it and I made copies for the
Okay.
board. So,
Before we look at it, we need to know what it is, if it's relevant, if it's a legal document
Yep.
that we can review. So
It's our document, but director's going to explain to us
what the lower
what it is,
heights,
what it's
small
part, it's
area.
part of a much larger document. So this is an excerpt of a larger document. But why don't we do this, Ms. Andes? Why don't you read the statement? And
Okay.
then we will determine the applicability of the small area vision portion of the larger document.
Okay.
Fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for serving and being here. So thank you for your time. Dear Planning Board Commissioners and Administrators and applicant, please accept the following to be considered for the application on behalf of the councilman. Application for 214 to 216 Palisades Avenue. After several meetings with Sergeant Anthony Neighborhood Association regarding various upzoning in their predominantly R1 and R2 area, I am concerned that the city's current zoning would allow for the potential loss of the neighborhood composition, the historic views associated with the Palisades, and preservation of the Palisades as a whole. I would like to use this opportunity to highlight several issues with the current application and why I believe the community's concerns regarding the current zoning are valid. 1, this application will change the neighborhood for the worse. A, more and more people are being displaced by developers and new development. Good people who are retired and have a limited income are being driven from their community due to new developments and market rate apartments. While this current application appears to create more housing, it also has the impact of potentially increasing the property values within the area and displacing many minority residents, elderly residents, and individuals who have made the Heights their home for many years. B, this development does not have an approved application for affordable housing. C, the medical zone is being manipulated by private developers to construct luxury housing, charge market rates or above, and serve people with higher incomes that significantly impacts the surrounding neighborhoods. This will displace many people. Undoubtedly, it will also displace the very senior population this development purports to serve, all because they can no longer afford to live in the area because of the potential gentrification. Number 2, the development project is a manipulation of the city code. A, according to Jersey City Municipal Code, Chapter 345-53, Medical District. B, medical zoning, medical district, provides that the purpose of the medical district is to recognize existing medical facilities and other medical-related uses traditionally associated with these facilities. Additionally, it lists senior housing as acceptable to the medical zone. C, the zone defines senior housing as housing that is located and designed to meet the special needs and accommodate the changing living arrangements of an elderly population, age 62 and older. That was said before. I am concerned that this is not a traditional senior housing that would benefit senior individuals with limited income and a need for special accommodations, but instead become a proxy for luxury apartments for more senior individuals. While I know the developer is not required to disclose how much they intend to charge for rent, I would ask the board to press them on their business model and what they intend to charge for individuals to reside at this location, especially because these buildings and pseudo-luxury apartments have the potential to substantially affect the neighborhoods they are built within. Moreover, I question what the developer plans to provide in the apartments to address the special needs of the seniors and how specifically they will accommodate the changing living arrangements of the elderly population with their development. Is there a community room? Number 3, the discrepancy in the zoning recognized by planning. Jersey City Municipal Code 345-53 further provides that the medical district encompasses Christ Hospital in the Heights and Greenville Hospital in Greenville. With respect to building height, 345-53 subsection D.1 provides as follows. Maximum height 10 stories and 100 feet provided. However, that in the district in Greenville, the maximum height shall be limited to 5 stories. I find it unreasonable that the city code would have 2 different height requirements for similarly situated medical zones. Both neighborhoods are similar in composition, relating to the buildings, houses, structures, and modes of transportation, diversity of population, incomes, and all characteristics that make a neighborhood. 4, the gradual loss of Christ Hospital. The property owners of Christ Hospital are selling off their property, which is zoned medical. Oh. Headlines for years have been dominated with Christ Hospital potential closure, and the city is very aware of the financial strain of the hospital. However, while I appreciate immensely the magnificent work the hospital and its staff are doing, I am concerned that the landowners of the area are going to exploit the allowances of this medical zone to a point where hospital is gradually sold off and the hospital is forced to close. Christ Hospital has served our community since 1872. It has been essential for the immigrant communities, people with little or no income, the residents of the Heights, neighboring towns, and it is essential that it remains operating in our city. Lastly, zoning should recognize the small area vision plan and use this as an opportunity to implement planning's general recommendations. I respectfully request that the board recognizes the small area vision plan of the Lower Heights vision, which I have here. Please review page 21 of the study titled New Medical Overlay, where it states, I'll read it, quote, "This zoning generally discourages investing in these buildings and increases the chance that they will be demolished to accommodate more intensive hospital uses. As previously discussed, there is a strong support for preserving existing buildings along this corridor, Beacon Avenue, Hopkins Avenue, to address these issues. The city should explore rezoning this area to R1 or R2D, assuming that the R1 recommendations are enacted. Since Palisade Avenue is a major corridor, the updated R1 would permit retail uses as well as residential, which is more in line with existing land use. As a result of the above information, please vote no on this application. Also, couple of notes real quick. The buffer is going to make a big difference. Oh,
Ma'am.
yeah.
Was that the entirety of
That's the
Councilman
entirety-
Boggiano's statement?
That is the entirety of his statement.
Did you supplement that at all with any of your own verbiage?
I did not.
Okay. Now you want to provide your own comments?
From this meeting, my notes, yes.
But these are not the councilman's comments. You just read a statement
Yes,
that
you want to stick to that.
I understood to be the councilman's statement.
That is correct.
Okay. But now you want to add your own thoughts.
Correct. We've had many meetings, so
Who's the we?
the councilman with residents and neighbors of that area.
I don't doubt any of that.
Yep.
But that was his statement, so I
Right.
just want for the record
Sure.
to be clear that that was his statement.
Yep.
But now, if you would like to give a
Right.
statement, then that is fine.
Thank you.
We need to have them separate.
Sure.
If you want to give your own commentary, that's public comment rather than
Sure.
the councilman's comment.
That-
So, Tanya, we need to explore exactly what that document is before anyone takes a look at it. Is that applicable tonight? Is that,
So when we did the master plan, we also included 3 small vision areas. One of them was Palisade, and Palisade did also, I think the small vision area also included part of the medical zone. I don't know if it included all of it, but it did have recommendations for rezoning on the medical zone, which was, as was read, you could tell is that because we didn't permit residential, to basically open the door to allow for residential and to rezone it as RC1, RC2. RC2 is R2D when it was written. The R1 would not have permitted commercial. I'm not really sure why that was written. But yeah, it's a vision document as a part of the master plan.
now
So
obviously.
I would say this, Chairman.
Go ahead, Council.
Let's take a copy of Councilman Boggiano's letter that was just read into the record. Let's mark it as Boggiano 1. You can give that to Ms. Marione.
Boggiano 1.
We
Boggiano.
only need one copy. Boggiano 1.
Okay.
Just one copy.
And the lower height, small area vision plan, we do not need to take. You can give Ms. Marione one copy if you'd like, but that is a portion of the city's master plan.
Do you want to mark this in or no?
I don't want to mark it because it's a portion of the
Okay.
master plan.
Great.
Now that we have gotten the Councilman Boggiano's statement on the record, if you would like to make a statement of your own, the floor is yours.
Actually,
I'm sorry, Chairman.
I'm sorry. Just give me a quick sec. And this is, for the board as much as my knowledge. So Tanya.
Yep.
Obviously, this board, had its hands on the master plan. I was in several sessions before it went to the board, before it went to city council. So the document that, the vision plan that's in there is a recommendation to city council for future zoning.
Correct.
And that zoning is not passed at this point.
It is not.
So that is a goal for the city. But that's not the zoning that's in front of us tonight.
Correct.
So even if city council passed those changes while we were in this meeting, those changes wouldn't affect this application because the application's already in the pipeline.
Correct, yes. They have time of approval, time of application, correct.
Okay, so, I'd be more than happy to see city council send that to us and look at it and give city council our recommendation and, whether they approve it or not, but that's really not the law right now. It's a
Chairman, it's not
goal.
a question of whether or not
It's
is
not.
really the law. It's not the law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a goal. It's in the master plan,
He
but
was
it's,
prepared to do this 2 weeks ago, before this meeting. but-
well, it would have to be before the
applicant,
application came in. So,
Right. Application
Mr. Harrington,
is
how
still
long, I know we have a big backlog. How long are we talking?
For what?
When did this application
This
hit the planning
application was in
department?
for a while.
Oh, a long time ago.
Yeah, we're slow.
Yeah.
2019.
We are really slow. Our backlog is massive.
It's about a year at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a couple of notes then, if I may.
Sure, and I'm going to start your timer for 3
Oh, wait,
minutes.
just
as-
one other thing is, I know how hard Councilman Bogiano's worked in that area, and with you, I've attended some of the meetings over there with you. But correct me if I'm wrong, under the new redistricting, isn't the current parcel in Councilman Soleil's ward, D4?
Correct. It is in Councilman Saleh's. He was involved, but we started working with the community on this.
No, exactly. I'm
And-
saying the years that
Right.
he's been at it.
And he has a conflict of interest, Councilman Saleh, because he's on the board of Christ Hospital. So then we stayed to assist the community. Yep.
Okay, Ms. Andes, I know I keep pausing you. I apologize. Steve, since you did just bring it up, you never attended any meetings pertaining to this project, have you?
I'm still a dues-paying member. I have been a member. I mean, I don't have to look back. Of the Sergeant Anthony, I live in the area. My wife represents. Have I attended meetings about this? Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, no, that's my question. You can be a member of Sergeant Anthony and still
Not a specific
vote on
meeting, but
this.
there was an outdoor meeting in the park about a year ago when Mr. Harrington and Mr. Vandermark spoke.
on this project?
No.
No,
For the-
Oh,
no,
okay.
that outdoor meeting was on a prior project that was presented to the zoning board.
Okay.
So
Then, thanks for clearing me.
Fine. Ms. Andes, I think we're there. I'm going to start your
I'll
timer.
be quick.
Okay, thank you.
Just to make sure the developer works again with traffic, because our office did request a curb extension. And so I know traffic was an issue. For the buffer zone on the north side and the south side, that will be some issue, just pointing it out. And are all the parking spots ADA? We just want to make sure they are, or there's standard car parking spots, not compact size. And then, is there a community room for senior activities? Most of senior housing does have a community room. And I did not see one, so double check that. And I just want to make sure there's an agency that does compliance or certificate of occupancy that this is a senior residence. And if we need to do a better job in strengthening that definition, will let us know, and we'll include that in the resolution that he's presenting. Also, 3 bedrooms for seniors. We're about to go to Grandview on St. Paul's Avenue. That's always, that's 1 bedroom and studio apartment. So most senior housing is 1 bedroom. 2 bedrooms is generous, but 3 bedroom is really a lot for this development. So if it's truly senior housing, the developer should really consider the studio 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom model. And then that's it. Those are my notes. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Andes. We appreciate your time. Mike, are you okay to go on? I'd like to get through. Okay. All right. Anybody else for public comment? Please come on up. Anybody for public comment, please?
That works.
Wherever you feel comfortable, I just want to swear you in before you go, okay? Raise your right hand. Swearing the testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do agree.
Okay. And just, if you can, into the mic, spell your name and give your address, please.
I'm Dr. Mahendra Shah. Mahendra, first name, Shah, last name Shah.
Mr. Shaw, good evening. We have 3 minutes for you, sir.
See, I've been living in Jersey City since last more than 20 years. I never heard about this senior project. This is the first time I'm listening this thing. And it's, on the contrary, it's a blessing to the senior people. So I do agree, and I welcome this project. And it's, on the contrary, I too should thank to the Jersey City as well the developer. And I wish all the success to the developer. And thank you, Jersey City, to involve, to take the part of it in this project. Thank you so much.
Okay, anybody else from public? Please come on up.
Hi,
Do you swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name and give us your home address, please?
Gurbir Singh, Gurbir, last name Singh, Singh, 98 Columbia Avenue, Jersey City.
Mr. Singh, good evening. We have 3 minutes for you.
Good
sir.
evening. My name is Gurbir Singh, and I am living in Jersey City from last 11 years. This is the first time I'm listening this, and I'm here. First, I got confused that why neighbor need to attend a public meeting where so many experts are sitting, and I was amazed by the discussion what we are doing here, by the detail you guys are going, like a bedrock thing, site back, everything. And this project is really amazing. I am like 42 years old. I have started saving, and I want to enjoy my retirement. So I need a luxury building. I don't want to go a normal building where there is no rooftop, there is no gym. I want to send my parents where everything, all the facilities are there. That's the why I'm saving myself. And I don't want to retire early. I don't want to retire at the age of 65 or 67. So I don't know why people are concerned that there is a rooftop and why there is a 55 years old constraint. So I think this is really a blessing for the city, and so many good facilities, solar lights. I was amazed with the architect when he said that he put the garage so far from the sidewalk so that the driver can see that who was on the sidewalk. So those micro details, they are looking into this. So I believe this is a perfect location. Bus stop is just outside the building. So this is amazing. I support for this project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Singh. We
Thanks.
appreciate your time.
Do you swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
For the record, can you state and spell your name and give us your home address, please?
Bart Warshaw, Bart Warshaw. I live at 97 Palisade Avenue. Jersey City.
Good evening, sir, and you're going to represent Sergeant Anthony? Okay. Do you want to try the other mic? I don't know why we got into this.
I know, right?
It's at Pam Andy's.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Well, I first want to say I appreciate you being here, but what stands out to me about this application is that there is nothing in it that represents senior housing. I don't know if you can recall anything that's in this design that's actually specific to senior housing, but in the Senior Housing Ordinance 345-6, it says housing that is located and designed to meet special needs of and accommodate the changing living arrangements of elderly population. I haven't seen anything that's specifically designed for seniors in this building. And I do want to just go into the history of this site for a couple of minutes. The first proposal for this site was a 10-story building, 34 units in 2019. At that point, Mayor Phillips said, without community support, he doesn't see how he could support this proposal. Then a couple of years later, we come down to about, I think it was 5 stories, 22 units. At that point, they brought this in front of the zoning board, and in the first initial meeting, there was a clear lack of knowledge about the requirements for traffic and things like that, and so they pulled the proposal before the meeting was adjourned, before it was ruled upon. So they brought it back a couple of weeks later, and it was denied. A 5-story unit at 17 units, denied 5-1, on 6-1, I think, actually, on that. And I think the reason they suggest is because it's a residential building and it's not supposed to be in a medical zone. Now they brought this 10-story building, and it's now 51 units, which is far exceeding what the original proposal was, and suddenly it's being claimed as senior housing. Again, I don't see anything in this that's got any kind of senior facility associated with it. I don't understand why you can name something senior housing and then it can actually be senior housing. That doesn't actually seem to be a reasonable way of dealing with any kind of senior or medical facility. I do want to address the size gap of 10 feet. I'm not quite sure what Mr. Vandermark was talking about when if you squeeze the building in to 10 feet, why it would affect the building, like why he would reduce. Basically, I'm assuming that basically what would happen if you squeeze the building in 10 feet, he would lose some of the apartments. And I don't see why that's a problem if that's what would happen. In the reality is 3'9" is not allowed, so 10 foot is what's allowed. The driveway is a great improvement in what they were proposing before, which was incredibly dangerous for that intersection, which has killed one person in the past 5 years, and as you heard, in the past couple of years has had 8 crashes? Certainly a significant number.
Thank you, sir. That was your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Please come on up.
Yes, I will. My name is Anna Penlilio from 113 Palisade Avenue. ANA, last name is P as in Peter, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, L as in Love, I as in India, L as in India, L as in India. I'm sorry, L as in Love. Okay, Panlilio, Panlil. I'm spelling in airline phonetics because I used to work for Philippine Airlines. Well, the reason I'm up here is because I will turn 70 years old in September. I have lived on 113 Palisade. We had that house built. But you know what? I'm getting ready to move out because I can no longer pay my mortgage. I have tenants, but they're not paying enough. I don't make much from Social Security. And the problem is, my question, not a question, a statement. If I sell my house, I'm not going to make anything, even if, I'll sell it for whatever they call market value, because I owe a lot on my house. I pay $18,000 in taxes. I was just at my accountant today. Last year, I made $18,000. 18. Why and how do I supplement my income? I went back to school at 68 years old at Hudson County Community College. I got my diploma in culinary arts, and that's what I do to supplement my income. My question is, I'm going to lose my house, or if not, I'm going to sell it, but with nothing. Will I be qualified if that building is there to live in that, like maybe 1 bedroom? And how much do I have to be able to pay the rent? That's my question, and that's my statement. And I feel bad because I've lived in Jersey City all the way from the Philippines in 81, Allen Terrace, Kilman Avenue, Liberty, Palisade. All my life, I love Jersey City, but I'm getting ready to leave because I can no longer afford. And for senior housing, I was told it's closed. There's no more room, so I have to call, and check with the new developments if they have anything available. That's my sentiment as a senior citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you explain and give your address, please?
Sure. Tom Demas. Last name's D as in David, E-A, M as in Mary, U, S as in Sam. And I live at 11 Jefferson Ave in Jersey City.
Mr. Demas, good evening. We have 3 minutes for you.
Sure. First thing is that I am actually a property owner at 11 Jefferson Ave. And I believe under 345-19 of the municipal code, I was entitled to receive notice of this hearing. Now, to be clear, the condo association for the building that I own a unit in did receive notice, but I and the other 2 units in the building did not. And so I do think that to the extent that notice wasn't provided, it's a little bit concerning. And I did cross-check against the certified mail list that was a part of the application. I didn't see it So I don't think it was sent out and never received. First thing. Second thing, it sounds like Mr. Harrington has all but conceded that this is going to be a 62 and over property. Is that right? That's correct. Okay, good. I'm glad we got that squared away. To my friend in the back over here, who's very excited about luxury apartments at a very young age, that's not the point of senior housing. Senior housing is for, like the ordinance says, 62 and over. So I'm glad we're on the same page about that. To Popsy's point, luxury apartments for seniors is kind of a pipe dream. We're talking about people who are on fixed income. They are, concerned about how they can stretch Social Security and whatever retirement income they have to make, the rent, the mortgage, and this isn't it. And to be sure about what that means, the applicant hasn't even promised to seek out any sort of, subsidized housing or any sort of rent relief or anything like that through the state or the federal government. And none of that is there. This is luxury apartments, market rate. So, the ability for, say seniors who are in the neighborhood who are feeling, pinched is really not there. I think some of the other just points I want to hit, again, this is a 10-story building. It far exceeds everything that's surrounding the other buildings. It's also a little bit absurd to think that if there's a fire or the elevator breaks down, that, lots of seniors are going to climb down 10 flights of stairs. That's just not what senior housing looks like. 9 accidents in 2 years. They're an engineer. And yet, when you think about, say, seniors, my parents, 77, 76 respectively, they don't move quite as fast. But Palisade Ave is a busy street. There's nothing that's being offered or added to make the intersections or anything surrounding it safer for people who might need a little more extra time to get from one point to the other. Again, this is not senior housing, other than calling it that. We've been down this road before on this property in terms of the egress and regress in and out of the driveway. It sounds like right now, basically the lot line on the north side is going to be at 0, which means that the parking that is already on Palisade Ave is also at 0, because that's just the way that it is. That creates blind spots. It creates, inability to see. Again, you have so-called seniors who live there who are going to be subject to that as pedestrians. This is a hazard.
Thank you, sir. That was your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from public? Please come on up.
Good. Right. I'm just.
Do you swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and give us your address, please.
It's Mia Skanga, Miascanga, and I live at 47 Duncan Avenue, which is not directly in this district.
Good evening, ma'am. We have 3 minutes.
Okay. The reason why I wanted to comment on this is because in my area, there's quite a bit of senior housing. Like right on the corner of Duncan, where I live, is the Birchwood at Fairmont Hotel. And they're always advertising for tenants. And I have on their website, they have studios to 2 bedrooms, okay? They're listing their 1 bedrooms from $983 to $1,286. There are income restrictions, okay, because they got some federal grant money when it was gut renovated in the late 80s under the Schindler administration, all right? Now, right across from there on Kennedy Boulevard, you've got the park, and you have the Boyd McGuinness, okay, which is a huge building. Oh, by the way, this building has 60 units, and they have 2 elevators at a minimum, 2 elevators, okay? I've been in the building, has a lot of common areas, it's got a kitchen downstairs, it's really quite lovely, all right? And then you have the park, the Boyd McGuinness Park, and then you have the Boyd McGuinness Housing Complex, which is probably a good 150 units. They have like 2 to 3 elevators there. I've been in it a few times. Okay, 2 to 3 elevators. They have 500 people on a waiting list. And the reason why I know is that I have a neighbor who had to move out of his unit, even though it was rent control, because his roommate moved to Florida and is now living with his daughter, okay, and he can't afford the rent, all right? And so I've called a lot of these places, and it's true, they have huge waiting lists. And one of the reasons they have huge waiting lists is because in those buildings, they only pay 35% of their income. So in his case, he got $1,200 a month in Social Security. He pays, I think it was like $360 or something like that, or $350 for rent, and the feds pay the difference. That's why there's a waiting list. There's not a waiting list for senior luxury. This is just a Band-Aid to get this building built, all right? And it's true, every senior building I've been in, and I've been in 3 or 4 of them, they all have common areas because they do, they have, chess, and they play bingo, and they entertain. And the apartments like at the Birchwood are studios to 2 bedrooms. And the 2 bedrooms aren't that large, but their apartments that they have for rent now are, I think it's 625 square feet to 700 or so at the rents that I quoted. All right. There's a
Thank
need.
you, ma'am. That was your 3 minutes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You can leave it on the table if you want.
I think I'll have to.
Okay, anybody else, please come on up.
Good evening.
And Ms. Burke, if you could just recognize that you're still under oath tonight.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
thank you. So I just want to speak once again about buildings that claim to appeal to certain types of people. In this case, it's going to be seniors. And I would like to know what agency is going to oversee this to make sure that this is a senior building. Because when you may have been on this board when Mary Norton was approved for Duncan Avenue, and it was workforce housing, and there are restrictions as far as workforce housing. And 2 years after that building was finally occupied, those units were being sold at market rate. And they were sold by the owners, and when I called up the city, they told me, sorry, that must be a HUD unit. That's not our unit under affordable housing or under the program. So I would like to know who's going to be the watchdog here. Because otherwise, we have a building that is going to get all of these approvals and claim to be senior, and then nobody's watching the house. So my question again is, who's going to be responsible for making sure that it's seniors that occupy this building? Because that's a big problem in this city, that things are approved based upon what is said here, and then nobody goes and follows up after it's built. And it's time and again we've had developers build other floors on top of buildings that they were approved for. 10 floors, they build 11. They come back and you guys have to approve it because you're not going to tell them to take it off. Now they plant trees as a punishment. So I just would like to know who's going to be the watchdog here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Please come on up, sir.
You want me to swear you?
Yeah.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
For the record, can you state and spell your name and give us your address, please?
John Nissan, John,
Good evening, sir. We have 3 minutes for you. And I'm sorry, an address.
Okay.
And what is your address, sir?
Sir?
What is your address?
My address 391 Central Avenue.
Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
I am here in Jersey City for the past 20 years, and I have seen many mid-rise coming all around. But this one is one of the rare meant for somebody, whether it is luxurious or anything. It's meant for the seniors, which I am on 57 now. Maybe I may get an opportunity to, So I strongly recommend the construction of this place.
And someone said that the prices are gone high, and it's not only the Palisade. Palisade is the high price is raised. It's all over the state, country, all over. So it's not a factor which should be made to that. It's a serious factor. So I thank whoever doing this project. My full recommendation for them, and I pray for them to do more regardless of any zoning, whether it is a medical area or whatever area. I would wish everybody to focus on seniors all over Jersey City. That's my prayer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. Anybody else from public, please come on up.
Hello, good evening.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And for the record, can you state, spell your name, and give us your
Sure, it's Anthony Harrington, Harrington.
in your address?
74 Jefferson Avenue. Thank you.
Mr. Harrington, good evening. We have 3 minutes for you, sir.
Hey, good evening to the board. Thank you, Tanya. Hello. My name is Anthony Harrington again. I'm a licensed architect and the resident and owner of 74 Jefferson Avenue, a couple blocks away from the project site. I've talked to many of my neighbors about this project over the last 3 or 4 months, probably close to 60 people, and I have not found anybody who's in favor of it. I'm not excited to be here to discuss this project, as my line of work involves going in front of boards, and I work with many of these people here, but they asked me to do this, so I'm here in support of my community. The scale of this project is vastly disproportionate to the rest of the neighborhood. When the development team has presented this project to the Neighborhood Association, and I believe it was January, we were in disbelief that the scale of this development would be allowed here. Urbanistically, the project appears to have been designed in isolation and not part of any context that exists. The senior housing use is misleading. The proposed use is in fact market rate housing. There is no affordability component and no services for residents on site for which the medical district zoning use implies. The project does not take into account the Lower Heights Vision Plan, which was commissioned for the city for this area, which took input from the community as part of this zoning strategy. The zoning states that the buffer is required adjacent to the residential zones and uses that should be maintained to keep this project buffered from those existing uses. Approving this project would be a real travesty for the neighborhood. I honestly feel that. Just because you can does not mean you should. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. Okay, anybody else from public?
Am I still sworn in?
You still are, and you're still under oath.
Okay, great. So I would urge you to see this project for what it really is. This is a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is a building that is taking advantage of the medical zone and of senior housing. When I think of senior housing in Jersey City, I think of housing that is for low or moderate income seniors and the disabled. This building is supposed to be accessible for disabled people as well as senior citizens. So you're taking and changing really the definition of traditional senior housing in Jersey City for market rate luxury condos. The only thing that this building has going for it is that it has an elevator. What else makes it a senior building? Where are the components that are all part of senior housing as we know it? They're not there. They're non-existent. The Lower Heights Vision Plan recommended that all the property from Laidlaw Avenue North up to Prospect be removed out of the medical district. I have copies. I will give that little recommendation. This was passed in 2021. Had someone acted upon the recommendations of the master plan, we would not be having this discussion because this building would not be in a medical zone. And finally, opening up the medical zone to luxury housing gives the people who own the land at CarePoint the opportunity to just redevelop that land for luxury housing. So it won't be for seniors with medical issues who would benefit from being close to the hospital, people on dialysis who cannot get to their appointments, people in wheelchairs, people who have cardiac issues. Those are the kinds of people that medical housing, that senior housing in a medical district should be for. not for wealthy, luxury designed condos for people who, frankly, are not going to be from Jersey City. Also, the Mount Laurel decision is going to come out with recommendations on how much more low and moderate income housing Jersey City is going to have to provide. Taking this land and using it for luxury rate market condos is a waste. It's not in keeping with the Mount Laurel decision. You're going to have to come up with places to put affordable housing very quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I do. Michael Manzo, Manzo, 82 Wright Avenue, Jersey City.
Mr. Manzo, good evening. Good to see you. We have 3
Great.
minutes
That's
for
why
you.
I wanted to come up here and say hello to everybody. It's better than watching on a little screen there. And you guys do a great job. I appreciate everything you do. And I'm kind of like disappointed I didn't participate in this dialogue prior to this. I had to care for my mom and dad that were hospitalized towards the end of February. But thank God we're on that way there. But it touches me in a different way because my dad's 96 and my mom's 91, and we're talking about seniors. Seniors made Jersey City great. We need things for them. So if this project, in fact, is something that's looking out for seniors, I support that 100%. But I'm going to defer to Anthony Harrington and his group and everybody else that came here as knowing what's going on, in fact, because I have not done anything on this. The only thing I do want to say is that I've dealt with Mr. Singh in the past, and every time I had an issue with him, he was always accommodating for me and respective of my community. So if that means anything, fine. It's been great seeing everybody. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.
Hope it stays there.
Good evening. Yes, I do. My name is Gulshan Baba, and Jijul, Shan, and Bawa. And my home address is Bawa. Yeah. And I live in Jersey City from 16 years on Corbin Avenue, and lives in an apartment. And
Good evening, ma'am. We have 3 minutes for you. We have 3 minutes for you.
Okay. So I really wanted, like, I heard, this is my first time I heard this is a luxury apartment, this is this. We work hard for whole life, right? And then after that, we need a luxury apartments after 55, 60 years, right? We enjoy our retirement. We need I really appreciate if they got a permission for the people. I heard they said this is dialysis people, but people, I saw they're 80 years old and 80, they are very, very in good health. So they enjoy their after retirement after 55, 65, 70, 75, right? So I recommended if you can give a permission to this senior living, this is luxury apartments, I heard it, but it's really we need it in Jersey City. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Okay. Anybody else from public?
How are you? You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep.
The record, can you speak, spell your name, and give us your home address, please?
Sure. Dan Francis, 22 Sherman Avenue.
Mr. Francis, good evening. We have 3 minutes for you, sir.
Thank you so much. My family's been in Jersey City on and off for 3 generations and in the Heights. And this is a very interesting project. We haven't seen anything of this size. And it's, I think, going to be a great addition to the neighborhood. My family's, since my mom and dad are in the suburbs, and having them being closer and having an option for them to be close, I think would be well invited by me and my family here. And we think that it's a very interesting project, and we'd like to see these guys build it if you guys think it fits the neighborhood. So we understand, what all the other neighbors feel too, and if it's done responsibly, we think it'd be a great addition to the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Anybody else from public? Please come on up.
I'm still under oath, right?
Yes, you are under oath and still sworn in.
Patrick Moore, and I live at 23 Waverly Street, right around the corner from this property.
Sure, and we have 3 minutes for you, Mr. Moore.
All of you. And I want all of you who live on the west side.
Please, into the mic, sir, so everybody can hear you.
Come at 5:30, any night at 5:30, and try to find a parking spot. Because the pictures they're putting up which is photoshopped, there's no place to park. and now you're putting 51 units with 8 parking spots. Where am I going to park? I don't have a park. I don't have a driveway. I drive around. All of us drive around at 5:30 looking for a place. I know senior citizens have to be home early, and they're going to be home. Come up, please, at 5:30 and try to find a parking spot, and then now put 51 units on top of that and say, "Oh, we have 8 spots for you," which I'm sure you have to pay for, which is another curious thing. All right, just want a statement. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from public? Anybody else?
Chair, seeing no more public, I would like to close the public portion.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Public is closed. Council, before you give a closing statement, I'm going to need 5 minutes. We need a 5-minute break. All right? And just for the board, no conversations. We're in an open application. No conversations between the board about this. No conversations with anybody from the public, any attorneys, architects, the such. All right, guys? Thank you. We'll be back in 5.
You didn't know about
Okay, council, do you want to give a closing statement?
Yes, I would, and I'd like to maybe address some of the comments from the public. I'll try to be brief, but the first question that was raised by Ms. Burke, who oversees this? This is the senior housing and retirement community is overseen by the state, so there are requirements that you file with the state. You have to file certain, paperwork, certifications on an annual basis to certify that you meet the requirements of a senior housing community, which would be one building is defined as a community under the definition. So that's where it's overseen. There were some comments about, why, that it's not a senior building. In all due respect, it is a senior building from the very fact that it's restricted to the age of 62 and older. It has a community room on a roof as part of the rooftop deck. It has a gym in there. It has 2 elevators for the 51 units. It's entirely ADA compliant. Now, are there specific criteria within it that you are required to meet? The answer is no. That was specifically taken out by the Fair Housing Act Amendment in that it used to provide what is required in a senior housing building. And just like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, a lot of people said, well, it has to have this, it has to have this and that, and does that qualify? It became so arbitrary that they just took it out. So what we're providing to you today is a senior housing building that's compliant, with the law, and we think is consistent with the intent, because you have your community room, you have your ADA compliance, you have your elevators, and it's restricted to 62 and older. And I think it's interesting that you heard some comments that there's a waiting list on some of the buildings, the senior housing buildings in the city. That's kind of the proof is in the pudding that this is a required need here within the city. And, is it going to be market rate? Yes, it is. But, the demand pool for the tenant base is limited to 62 and over. So that is naturally going to lower the rents, because you're not competing with the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds and the 40-year-olds. So that naturally depresses it. But that, again, as I stated in our opening, that we have the intent to go to the city to apply for affordable housing funds. I mean, it's not part of this application before you, but that's our plan. And if we can provide for that, then that can help to provide some specific affordability as part of this project. What else? And there's... I know Ms. Andes, talked about or provided for Mr. Bogiano's comment or statement, and I, just to respond a little bit on that, there's no displacement being made here. This is actually a vacant parcel of land, so we are creating more housing stock, and we're creating more housing stock specifically for the senior population, which. I have a lot of meetings with Councilman Bogiano, and his concern is people leaving the city, And again, as I said earlier, this is an opportunity and a product that allows them to stay in the city, and we probably don't have enough. But because the senior population, I know, my experience, we all have, elderly parents, when my dad was alive, he hated to move out of, he grew up in Kearney, and he moved out, and he went back to, his pharmacy, he went back to the fish store, he went back to the cleaner, and we'd be like, why are you going, all the way there? And he's like, those are my people. So I think this is an opportunity to keep people within Jersey City. As far as the relief we're asking for, as Mr. Bellamy said, it is a classic C2 where the benefits outweigh the detriments. Could you comply with the 10-foot buffer? You could, but it's a much, this is a much better project, as you saw in the diagram that Mr. Vandermark provided to us. So, it's kind of form over substance. Why would you want that when you can have this better project with that relief? And what it also results in is that greater setback for the driveway. You have queuing now for 2 cars within that driveway area. It creates a tremendous landscaping area in the front. So again, if you want to sit out there on one of the benches and you're there by the landscaping area, that's a nice little amenity, as well, because in the alternative, you're moving the building up to the front property line, which that just congests everything up at the front. So, and I think also the senior housing here is consistent with the medical district in that you want the senior housing close to the medical services. Again, elderly people, I know from my experience, they want to be close to their doctors. They want to know, if something's available down the street. They can walk to the hospital. They can walk to their doctor if their doctor is close to Christ Hospital, so that's a benefit. And lastly, I want to touch upon the small vision plan. There's been a talk about that. It's, as council stated, it's not the law. This is the current zoning. But what wasn't said is that this small vision plan did not specifically say that everything had to be reduced in size. It actually refers to a medical district overlay. So we don't know how that would turn out. The medical overlay may very well be what you have here before you. That's the law now. So I think that's just something that's out there. Pretty much should be dismissed because it's not the law, and it's not exactly what this overlay says. And I think this is a project that it may help to encourage others to create senior housing in this location and throughout the city.
Council, I do have one question that I assume I should direct to you. Are these units deed restricted as senior housing?
Yeah, that's part of your registration with the state.
Okay.
And then you have to be in compliance on an annual basis because they're the component that oversees it.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Tanya, you have anything you want to add?
So I have no additional comments. Everything that was said has been said a few times already. I would like to read the conditions in the record, if that's good with you.
Sure.
Sure. Staff recommends approval with the following conditions. Number 1, all materials and color selection shown on final plans. No change shall be made to the facade site design, including materials that would be required by the Office of Construction Code shall be permitted without consultation with and approval by the Division of City Staff and consultation. Nope, I don't know what that's in there. Sorry. Approval by the Division of City Staff and the potential amendment required. Number 2, all testimony given by the applicant and their expert witnesses in accordance with this application shall be binding. Number 3, architect of record shall provide an affidavit confirming the development is built in accordance with the approved plans prior to the issuance of first certificate of occupancy. Number 4, memorialized resolution shall be recorded with the county registrar's office. Proof should be provided to the Division of City Planning prior to application for construction permits. And 5, and this is what we were talking about, a copy of the Department of Community Affairs, DCA registration shall be provided to the Division of City Planning prior to issuance of a CO or a TCO.
Counselor, you're okay with those conditions?
Yes, they would all be acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman, I would just add to that last condition that obviously the deed restriction 62 and older.
Agreed.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor.
Tanya, is there any way to add a condition in terms of traffic safety, in terms of some kind of bollards or something in Palisade? No.
Yes, I mean, the board can add any conditions they want, sure.
I would ask council, given that, I mean, it seemed like a popular idea, if it's going to be improved, that and it was agreed that there would be no left turn. So rather than allow those 11 cars to come across Palisade Avenue to the left and then even go down Palisade, if we can work with infrastructure, traffic, and engineering to have bollards put on Palisade like they have on Ravine to prevent people coming down New York Avenue to continue down to New York Avenue to Hoboken, I think it would be a environmental design that would help traffic mitigate some of that craziness.
Yeah, and we can agree to work with the Jersey City Traffic Department, but ultimately it's up to them, right? We can't dictate to them
No.
what's okay.
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 Thank you. So if there's no deliberation that the board needs, anybody want to talk before we hear a motion?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case B22-189 as presented to the board this evening, together with staff recommendation and conditions.
Okay, motion made and seconded for approval.
A motion to approve with staff and added conditions. Vice Chair Gangadin?
I want to thank the community for your comments this evening. I also want to thank the team for a great presentation. You guys did an awesome job in your presentation. In my opinion, the variance requested is very minimal, and it's not detrimental to the project. This project meets the goals and objectives of the medical district. Again, this project will be very beneficial to the seniors of Jersey City, and I would vote aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Lipsky?
So the planning department has given its opinion that it favors this project. There were about 43 senior living arrangements in Jersey City. I believe all of them are for low or moderate income. I think there's a value to having for seniors the current proposal that would give them units on Palisade Avenue. Because I think that, is if you have low, moderate, and a higher level, I think that's a great balance. I've seen it in like Newport and elsewhere where communities come together because I won't continue to opine other than say is that this is an improved project, and for 6.1 feet difference, I think it's a great architectural rendition. I think it's been explained exceptionally well by the professionals, and I vote aye.
Commissioner Dr. Desai?
Yeah, they have followed all the rules and regulations for the seniors. Even the seniors have worked so hard for all these years. They need some luxury also. And especially in Jersey City Heights, there are so many people who have worked hard and they need a nice living in their after 62 years. Medical district is so near for all the seniors. They can go to the doctors, the hospital is there, the supermarket is right next door. So I think I'm going to vote aye.
Commissioner Green?
No. When I hear luxury senior apartments, it seems a little intimidating because a lot of seniors, let's be honest, they don't make luxury income. They don't have luxury incomes to retire from. So granted, they deserve a nice place to live, but luxury is it's intimidating, in my opinion, just a little intimidating because some feel like I could never afford a luxury apartment as a senior, not even as a young person, unretired. So, but it is very convenient to the hospital. It's, I'm sure those who are approved to live in there will appreciate all the those benefits, and I'm voting aye.
And Chairman Langston.
So I'm going to start my comments off with a question for you, Tanya.
Yeah.
Do you know if what is the definition of luxury in the LDO?
There isn't one.
The luxury is a marketing term, everybody. These are market rate units. Market rate means what the market will afford. Our master plan speaks to diversified housing. Is there a market for market rate senior housing? I don't think Mr. Harrington's client would go through the financing of this project if they didn't explore that already. I think there is a market for it. As far as the variances tonight, again, the height permitted. The only variance is that side buffer. And Mr. Vandermark, thank you for thinking ahead. If you look at what could be built as of right on that property, you know, we weigh variances from a legal standpoint, but when you look at it in a real world view of what could be built as of right, this is a much better project than that as of right building. So, you know, again, the legal side of it, I think the variance, it has no detriment to the master plan. It, you know, upholds the M district. And I do think there is a market for it, and I think it's a good project. So with that, I'm going to vote aye.
Application is approved, 6 in favor, none opposed, none abstained.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you, everybody.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to memorialization of resolutions, please.
Chair, I have 6 resolutions.
6.
Resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City.
If everybody
case
could just quietly
number
vacate the room because the board still has other business. Thank you.
B2023-0090 in the matter of review and discussion of the proposed amendments.
Please,
to
everybody, if we could, we still have business to take
No.
care of. Any conversations? I don't want to
We still
stop
have a
them.
minute.
If you can take them outside.
plan
Take care.
To permit the expansion of legally pre-existing drive-throughs.
Pam
in
Andes.
connection With restaurant
Steve,
category 3
we're still in a
uses.
meeting. We're trying to get
Send me
resolutions.
mom's info.
1 LLC Dunkin' Donuts, hearing date is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. Second resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City, applicant is Mata Vaishnavi SIP LLC for amendment final major site plan approval with C variances. Address is 238 SIP Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey, Block 10502, lots 15, 16, 17, and 18. Case number is P2023-0111. Third resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City approving a conditional use applicant VT420 LLC for conditional use approval 840 Communipa Avenue. Block 18204, Lot 16, case number is P23-072. Fourth resolution of the Planning Board for the City of Jersey City approving a site plan extension of the preliminary major site plan and minor subdivision approval with deviations and conditions. Applicant 20 Carbon Place Corp. Approval of 1-year site plan extension of the previously approved preliminary and final major site plan and minor subdivision with deviation and conditions. Property 20 Carbon Place, Block 22103, Lot 12, case number P2024-0023. Fifth resolution of the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City. Applicant is 804 West Side Avenue, LLC, for 1-year extension of final major site plan approval with C variance. Address is 804-810 West Side Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey, Block 14803, Lots 1 and 74-76. Case number is P2024-0024. Sixth resolution is on one of the item that was on our agenda this evening. Resolution for the City Planning Board of Jersey City in the matter of Plaza 8, 1X Associates LLC, 242 Hudson Street and 3 Second Street, Block 11603, Lots 22 and 27. Case number is P024-0078. Decided on April 30th, 2024, Harrison Cove Station Redevelopment Plan, East Waterfront District, applicant for extension for interim use.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. All right, Tanya, can we have a roll, please?
Acting Vice Chair Ganganon.
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz. Aye. Commissioner Lipsky.
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Desai. Commissioner Green. Aye. Chairman Langston.
Aye.
There's 6 in favor, none opposed.
All right, thank you. Executive session, anybody? All right, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.